All right, it's 5:30, calling the meeting of the City Council Finance Committee to order. Tonight on our agenda, we've got some minutes to be approved, and then we'll continue on with our conversations on the annual appropriation order, and we'll be joined tonight by Chief Mullis of the Malden Police Department. In attendance tonight, we've got councilors on committee, councilors Condon, Anderson, Linehan, Murphy. Off committee, we have councilors Peg Crow and Ryan O'Malley. Joining us also are City Clerk Greg Lucy, Clerk of Committees Lisa Cagno, of course Chief Mullis of the Malden Police Department, City Solicitor Kate Fallon, also joined by Councilor Steve Winslow. What we're going to do in this part, first we're going to go through, I'll ask for a motion for the minutes to approve those, and then we'll move into our conversation with the chief. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Linehan, seconded by Councilor Condon. Was the motion for all three weeks? All right, for all 3 weeks. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, the minutes have been approved unanimously. So what we've done for the past few weeks, and what we'll continue to do tonight, is we've had each of the department heads in. What I did is I asked them to take a few minutes to talk about the challenges they expect this year, and how the budget this year in particular is impacting them, or how they foresee impacting their department. Of course, this is a unique situation. We often, this is usually when we're finishing up the budget. We will, have a vote for this budget, but just to manage expectations because of the impact we're going to have on. I mute everybody for background noise just for a minute. Just because the impact that's going to occur, because we know state aid to the city is going to be reduced. We're probably going to be back talking about this in the fall when we have a clearer picture. But with that said, welcome, Chief Mullis. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. As we've done in the past, I'll hand the floor over to you for a few minutes to hear anything you want to kind of comment on the situation of this year and the budget in your department. So just give me a minute, I'll make sure you're unmuted.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. I'm here. Sorry for my tardiness.
Technical difficulties in this remote age. Chief Mullis, are you able to?
He's muted.
Chief, can you unmute yourself? And folks, if you're not commenting right now, could you mute yourselves? Just it helps with the background noise.
Just 1, 2.
Good. Dave, can you can hear me now, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can't take credit for the IT skills there. I required backup from Sergeant Pete Mitchell on that, so thanks, Pete. Dave and all members of the City Council and anyone who can, hear my voice. I know that many members of the police department have tuned in tonight to, listen to this important process. I want to thank you, Dave, and all the members of the city council for, all you, do for my department and myself. Every year we undergo this, process, which is a great example of the way city government should work. And I am happy to, look forward to the analysis of the budget. Clearly, 2020 has been a unique year for law enforcement, particularly across the country, but for your Malden Police Department, something that, I know well, whether it be COVID-19 and now the, narrative that has gone on around our country and locally, based upon, the murder of George Floyd and the other, matters that have, come into the public discussion, something that we have been very involved with and very engaged in. So 2020 has been a unique year for the Malden Police Department, but it is certainly not unique to the concept of policing. Policing is based upon being on the front of any problem that society has to deal with. We have done it before, we're doing it now, and the officers are doing it in a way that is commendable, and I'm very proud of what they've done. And in that vein, I would say that looking at the budget and understanding the uncertainties about the fiscal future of the city, I believe that the mayor and his team, Chuck Rannigan, have done a very, very commendable job in looking at where we are at now and where we hope to be, and have been able to provide a level of service that we believe will allow us to continue to do our job for the citizens of Malden.
Great, Chief. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So now we'll move into the period of questions and answers with the councilors. So councilors who would like to ask some questions, please raise your hand, either through the button or just let me see you. Preferably through the button, it's a little easier to track that way. Very slow down, all at once. You have the right to remain silent, but you don't have to.
We usually give that warning to people, Dave, but you did good on that.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Councilor Camille. I guess I'll, start with a question that probably is on everyone's mind when we look at the budget, and that is, Police Chief, what's something I'd like you to speak to, if you wouldn't mind, and that is training on de-escalation procedures, training on racial bias, etc. So
Sure.
If you could just tell us, maybe what's been done in the past and how a level funded budget will affect you going forward. I know that, I think one of the things we heard very clearly over the last couple of weeks is a level funded budget. To those of you who are listening to this for the first time, does not necessarily mean a level service budget. So when you level fund a budget because of all the other contractual issues, it does mean that services and things are cut in order to stay current with the actual dollar amount that you've been given. So if you could just talk maybe about training for the officers and how you see this budget impacting that or helping it.
Sure. Thank you for that, Barbara. So when you look at training in law enforcement in Massachusetts particularly, there is some training that is mandated by the Massachusetts Training Council. And police officers every year attend 40 hours minimum of training that is provided by the Training Council. It is not something that we do internally. The curriculum tends to be evolving based upon things that are going on in society. Over the years, I have seen emphasis on things like domestic violence, cyber crimes, but to be more specific to the topic you brought up, Barbara, things like de-escalation, crisis intervention training, implicit bias, and things of that nature are all woven into a curriculum that officers must attend every year. Now, included in that training would be mandated things that are related to first responder, whether it be CPR, first aid, legal updates, and things of that nature. So that is kind of a required foundational training that all members of the department would receive. But as you know, we hire new police officers, and when they are hired, they go to a police academy, and police academy is 6 months. And again, going back to that police academy training, that is where a brand new recruit is taught all of the mandated requirements of the essential tools of being a police officer. But to bring that to a more topical reality, because I've had the honor and the privilege of hiring police officers since I've been chief. And just to let people know, since I have had the honor of being the police chief, not solely because of me, I believe we have hired 34 new officers. And I think it's an important thing for the community to know that in those 34 hirings that were done, in a civil service situation, I have been able to hire 38% women and minorities in that grouping. So since I've been the police chief, the system that we have used for hiring has brought 34 new members in a 38% number of women and minorities in the hiring process. Now, getting into what is taught, de-escalation is absolutely part of the curriculum. Crisis intervention is part of the curriculum. Most importantly, as far back as I know, and I've been on for 40 years, on the issue of use of force, things like chokeholds have never been taught as an acceptable tactic for police officers. But use of force is a reality of the police academy. And when people are taught in the police academy, what is called the use of force continuum is a significant part of the training. But more so, we on the police department also receive training. And just to give you a little bit of an overview, during the past year alone, approximately 60% of the department participated in ICAT training. Now, ICAT means integrating communications assessment tactics. 60% of the department attended that training through a 911 grant. And it's very important for people in the community to hear this. ICAT is a training program that provides first responding police officers with the tools, skills, and options they need to successfully and safely diffuse a range of critical incidents. Developed by PERF, which is the gold standard for law enforcement, with input from hundreds of police professionals from across the United States, ICAT takes the essential building blocks of critical thinking, crisis intervention, communications, and tactics, and puts them together in an integrated approach to training. So this is very, very important. 60% of the department received that. I also want you to know that in the past year, the same group also participated in training that involved a multi-agency response to active shooter events, understanding and dealing with human trafficking and people with Alzheimer's and dementia training. Lieutenant Fortier in the police department went to an internal affairs for command staff training. Officer Headley, tremendous resource to the schools, tremendous role model. Attended training with Massachusetts educators on school law and discipline. I have had officers attend training on how to become field officers, role models to new officers. Detective Renee Kelly has attended advanced investigative classes along with Detectives McLeod and Jeff Dries and Jack Lanny on when they became sergeants on suicide prevention. I've had officers receive training on how to conduct background investigations on new recruits. So that kind of gives you some idea when you say training, Barbara, what it actually means. It provides a comprehensive way that this department can become better suited to deal with the multifaceted realities of the police job, which I think we're going to talk about at some point. The many things that have been thrust upon police officers in the modern era, and whether it is something that we should be taking a look at, because 2020 has been a year in which your police officers, my police officers, have stood up and met many, many, many challenges and have done so in a way that I believe is exemplary and a true indication of the caliber of the people that they are and the values that this organization holds and the training that they have received. So Barbara, I hope that helps you give a little bit of an idea what training is all about when you see it there.
Thank you, Chief. I see a number of hands up from my fellow counselors, so I'll defer to them and come back with the second follow-up.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief, for being in front of us tonight and answering a myriad of questions. And huge thanks to all the men and women that represent Malden that keep us safe on a daily basis. I have a couple of just real quick finance questions in the budget, and then I too will yield and come back to my second question. So in the budget for the police department, and you know, I apologize if I ask this every year, but could you just kind of embellish a little bit on bulletproof vests? And my question with that is that something that you can only use on an annual basis and then you have to refund it for the entire staff? There's a $50,000 line item in that?
Okay, so I'll do my best on this one, Debbie. Bulletproof vest, there's a partnership between most cities and the federal government with regard to the acquisition of vests, but there is some expenditures that we take. Bulletproof vest, I'm wearing one right now, okay?
Yeah.
It's one under my shirt. They do have a shelf life through body heat and exposure to the elements that do have a shelf life where they lose their effectiveness. And it's because of that, we don't issue them to everybody one time. So the expiration of them occurs in a cyclical manner. So there were times when we are replacing them, not for the whole department, but incrementally as we identify them reaching the point of not being safe anymore.
I see.
So that's kind of why you would never see us buy one amount and then we're good and only need to buy a couple if we hire somebody new.
Okay, so they're backfilled and they have a shelf life. That's wonderful. And the other question I have is, and I'm anticipating the answer, but prisoner meals for $5,000. So is that when our prisoners come to help us with maintenance?
You got kind of drowned out at the end. The question about prisoner meals is just what does it mean?
Well, it's a small amount, but I just wonder what is it earmarked for? Is it?
Yeah, okay. So the way this works, Debbie, if a person is under arrest and not going to immediately go to court, potentially spend a night with us because they can't make bail, or in some occasions, they may spend an entire weekend because they are not eligible for bail. Now, you might not be eligible for bail because of the nature of the offense or it's a default warrant, which you cannot be bailed. We have a compassionate duty and obligation to feed the prisoner, and we have a relationship with a vendor that provides the meal. We get receipts for the meals, and that's how that's done. It's a very, very effective, smooth process. We're not cooking. We're getting the meals through
Okay.
that
Yeah.
we get it from.
Yeah,
So
and you know
the
what?
$5,000 is probably based upon the average that we have been doing, but you can kind of stay within a certain predictable number. I don't ever see it jumping or going down to any significant degree.
Okay, I'm going to yield to my last question, but I'll let my fellow counselors take a turn. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Councilor DiMaria. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Chief. I appreciate your time being here. It looks like we have a lot of participants on the call too. So I'll
Right.
try to move quickly through my initial questions and then yield to my fellow committee members. So I had 3 sections of the budget that I was hoping you could just explain in a little more detail what they include.
Sure.
So the first is the in-service training, that 231,800 item.
Yes.
The second is the educational incentive.
Yep.
And then the third is the equipment maintenance and purchases. I'm just interested in a little more detail about what those all include.
Absolutely. On the training one, I'm probably going to go back to where I was earlier. Training, there is a mandatory element to training for police officers in Massachusetts that requires that 40 hours of in-service. Now, when I do that, I could have an officer who works the midnight to 8 shift. Just so everybody knows, I apologize if I didn't make this that clear. That in-service training occurs at a facility in Reading, Massachusetts. So we do not provide the training here. So when an officer goes to training, they are taken out of their primary assignment and goes to training. There are occasions when that absence can cause a need to hire people to replace our staffing level, or there could be some occasions where a day they are in training would have been a day, it might be rare when they could have been off and entitled to some compensation. But generally speaking, I will say that when an officer goes to that mandatory training, they are taken off their regular schedule and assigned to training. Now, some of the other training that an officer could go to, for example, say one of the advanced detective ones, say it's something to do with, say, fingerprinting or human trafficking or things of that nature, domestic violence. There are fees associated with going to that training, whether it's to pay for the instructor or the facility. Now, in addition, every year by law, we are required to be certified in the knowledge and use of the firearms. So we provide that training. We have qualified instructors here. We do that. We don't have a range here. When we built our police station, we do not have a shooting range, which is something good for the public to know, that when the decision was made to build this facility and we looked at our priorities and the cost, we do not have a facility here. And that when we do the annualized firearms instruction, again, that's a mandatory event, and that when officers go to that, it does create a need for compensation. So in a somewhat specific, but I admittedly broad answer, Counselor, that is kind of the sum and substance of the training. I will tell you this, though. The training budget does allow me some ability to prioritize what's important. And maybe more so now than ever, there are clearly going to be some evolving priorities in the area of police community relations and police community engagement and ways of doing things differently or doing things better. And I would think that when I or you, not you, but all of you, looks at the good conversations that we're having, and I have had many in the past couple of weeks with people who have come to this building. And when they come here, I tell them it's their building. I had a meeting the other day with 3 men who had moved to Malden, sought me out, sat down with them. We talked about the inner workings of my agency. And it was a good experience, but I'm coming back to my answer here. It's through those conversations that you identify the tools that you need to do things better. And I believe that training is one of the most preventive and at times therapeutic things that police officers can do. And I would say that the track record that we do have has been the direct result of a commitment to training, a commitment to values, and a commitment of trying to do better. And that is something that I've been very, very grateful to the council and the city and the mayor for the way that they have allowed us to be, maybe not as, well, we're good, as good as we are in knowing that we can be better. So I think I maybe got a little bit off track for you there. I'm sorry about that. Education incentive is a contractual thing. It's a benefit between the city and the both unions, where a police officer who acquires extra education, college, gets a contractual compensation. It's a good thing. Again, it exposes officers to additional training, education. I actually think there is a benefit to go to school and be with fellow students and listen and learn from them too. So, but the education incentive, just to be clear, is a contractual thing that most cities do. It's an enhancement based upon whether you have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or a master's degree. The equipment and maintenance is simply that $30,000, things that are related to the maintenance and upkeep of a building, and the things that are necessary to do that. It could probably be something as simple as staples or things that we purchase through WB Mason or things of that nature. But I assure you that they are things that are related to maybe even like this yellow notepad that I'm holding up. I mean, it's things that are related to the everyday, the yearly upkeep and running of the building.
Can I get in there, Dave?
Yeah, so it's going to be Councilor Conan first, and then Councilor Anderson. Thank you, Councilor Lenahan. Councilor Conan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, could you give us some sort of sense on how your officers interact with the youth in the community through various programs? and what are you involved in with the programs
Sure.
that help them interact?
Sure. Very important component of police community relations is the relationship you develop with young people. And we take a multifaceted approach to that. I will say this, you know, I go to most roll calls, and I went to roll call this morning at 8 o'clock and looked out at a group of cops. And it's not a hope that I have, it's an actual knowledge that I have that when they leave, they are going to take advantage of the many opportunities that they have to impact people's lives in a positive way. And how do I know that? Again, it's not a hope, it's a knowledge. If you knew how many times I have somebody contact me and say, Officer Cameron DiCarlo went out of his way to stop in a park or stop at my school and play with some kids, or Connor Clarity was throwing a football around with somebody. It's what they choose to do with their time. They don't have to be ordered to do it, because if they did, it would be obvious. So I will say, Paul, it's a philosophy that allows them to be who they are as cops. And in doing so, they become mentors and role models. But we also do things to make sure that it's more part of the system. I have an officer assigned to the schools, Trent Headley, very experienced. He put his name in for that job, and when he put his name in for that job, Trent Headley is an African-American male. He said at this point in his career, he wanted the opportunity to step away from patrol and put himself in a situation where he could help kids, mentor kids, and use his life experiences in a way that would help navigate the difficult times that young people experience at that point. And he has been an invaluable resource in that position. So having someone in the schools, I think, is something that I am very, very glad that I was able to do at the request of many people, including many people that I'm appearing before right now. So that's, and maybe I have a little bit of a historical affection to that, because as you know, Paul, I was assigned to the high school for 9 years. So secondarily, I have Detective Renee Kelly, African-American female, Michelet Montina. They are a resource to the high school, although they're detectives. But we also have an active relationship with the recreation department, Mr. Levine, and with the high school. And we try to organize joint ventures that allow police officers to engage in recreational activities with young people. So those are some of the things, but even more important, it's the identification of young people in crisis, young people who are going down the wrong path of life, and trying to do diversion, try to do mentoring, try to do things that can help them maybe turn their life in the right direction. It's about relationships that the police have with the teen center, with the schools, and things of that nature. So, Paul, I will say that relationships with young people are extremely critical and important, probably more so now than ever. And it's important to have tremendous role models that young people can look up at and look up to, and say that that is somebody who has chosen to serve and learn a little bit more about them. That's why it's helpful to go back to what I said. Since I have had the privilege of being the police chief, I have also had the privilege of watching 34 people raise their hand and take their oath to the community. And looking at those 34 people, I've been able to look at 12 combined women and minorities, young people who have been able to be looked at by anyone that wants to look as someone who is a shining star and a potential role model, and someone who can have a tremendous impact on the unity that we're trying to accomplish here.
I've seen the way Trent and the officers that donate their time to run the basketball tournaments on the 4th of July, and the way they interact with these kids. You know, it's amazing the way the kids look up to them, you know, so I think it's really good to see that, you know, so I'll step aside and get to Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Councilor Condon. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you. Kevin, thanks for being here. And let me first say that I think we're very fortunate to have you. I've seen the work that you've done, and for someone to have hired 38% of 34 new people, and those are persons of color or women, that has never happened in my knowledge of the Malden Police Department before. I don't think it's ever happened in any other city department in the city of Malden before. So I say hats off to you. Would you break down, please, what those 38% mean? You said women and minorities. How many are women? How many are minorities?
Okay.
And are there minority women?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I can give you some, it's kind of, I have a pretty good memory for history. And I remember when I first became police chief and we had the opportunity to hire some people right out of the gate, we did some lateral transfers. And we had this wonderful gentleman from the Lynn Police, Elijah McNeil.
Oh, yes.
And lit up the room.
Yep.
Lit up the room. If this was
But Chief, I want to move on, because
yeah.
I want us to talk about, we've been talking so much about budget issues and so forth, but with all that's going on
Yeah.
in this world today, I think we need to spend some time talking about the impact of what is going on with this whole police culture stuff, with police officers killing Black people, and how that dynamic, which is probably new to most white people seeing it because it's right there on television and so forth, but is not new to Black people, not new to brown people. We've seen that culture going on for a long time. We're fortunate in Malden and in other surrounding areas that we so far we haven't been affected by that. So I'd like to pick up on a couple of the terms that you use, because I'd like you to embellish them as it relates to this. You talked about the many things that the police officers are being thrust into doing. I'd like you to talk a bit about that, because see, what I've seen, and I think what we've all seen in the killings of police officers on a large percentage of Black and brown people, has been that these situations that probably weren't best handled by police. We don't need police officers to chase kids out of parks, for example. We don't need someone to show up with a badge and a gun. Maybe somebody else could be doing that. That's less threatening and less intimidating around that. The community engagement that you talked about, I think very, very important. And I'd like you to embellish a bit about that. I guess I want you to talk about what it is that you're doing that has made our department, that is so much different than what we see in other places around the country, specifically in regards to the relationship between cops and killing Black and brown people.
Okay.
I want to get right to it, right to it. I don't want to dance around this. I want to get right to that.
I'm glad you asked it, and I'm glad that we're here to talk about that. So I'm glad that you're not just here. I know you, Neil, very well. We talk a lot.
Yes.
And I'm very glad that we're hearing some focus on the Malden Police Department right now and on the city right now. We are in the most diverse city in Massachusetts. So that means that your police officers, your Malden cops, go out each and every day and they police in the most diverse community in the world, a laboratory of society. And how do they pass that test? How do they pass the test so well? How do these men and women go out in the most diverse city in Massachusetts and accomplish things that I think most people would be skeptical about the level of success? I believe that we have been very, very fortunate, very, very fortunate that we have been able to attract people who have brought the right level of values, integrity, and commitment into the exam room, into the interview room, been given the privilege and opportunity to earn that badge. But the value system that they know and feel, the value system that they know and feel is something that is real and validated each and every day. That has to be the foundation by which any organization manifests its behavior in what it does. It has to be real. They have to believe in it. If they don't, the whole thing fails. I have had many, many conversations with my colleagues. I spend a lot of time with cops. I have learned, and I am open to any insight that they have. It has been very, very enlightening and edifying for me to hear, particularly from the members of my department who are African American, who tell me that we are a small enough place in a big enough city to know each other well enough to know what is expected in what behavioral beliefs and actions are part of someone's persona, part of their humanity. We are a very, very engaging department. It's not, at times it's a family of dysfunction. We don't all love one another, but there is an intimacy, an internal knowledge, an internal value that is far different. I've been here since 1980, Neil. I'm the oldest cop you got here. Okay, but I hope I'm an evolving person. I have seen changes in law enforcement. I had this conversation today with someone. There have been many, many heart-to-heart conversations had over the past couple of weeks. But I am telling you, we are not playing catch-up. We are not late in the game. We take this serious. I will tell you this. The diversity that this department has, the diversity that this department has welcomed, the diversity that this department has been blessed with, has had a resonating effect on others. Because it
And that's why I asked you that question. I want to hear you say that. I want people to hear that.
I am telling you, the best thing that can happen in life is to get to know people who are different from you. The best thing that can happen in life is to hear opinions that don't mirror yours. Over the past 2 weeks, I have told many, many people, I do not need blind support for the police, and I don't need blind hatred for the police. Neither one is productive, and neither one is realistic. What I need is honest, open unity, a hope for unity, a hope for dialogue, a hope for learning, and a hope for listening. I don't need people that are 100% for the cops, and I don't need people that are 100% against the cops.
Here, here.
I need people who are willing to teach me what life is about. I have always said, I cannot live my life through the experiences that you had, Neil.
Correct.
I can learn from them if I'm open to it. That's one of the luxuries, one of the beauties, that I can walk into my detective room that has 10 detectives and five of them, Mike Powell, Mitch Montina, Kevin Coe, Elijah McNeil, and Renee Kelly can teach me about their life experiences that no classroom can teach me, that no book can teach me. Only life can teach me if I'm willing to learn.
I want to hear about the other cops in the department that are getting that message. I know you have that message.
They are.
That's what I want you to talk about, how they're getting it, not how Kevin Mullis has gotten it, because I know you have. I've seen you do that.
Well,
I want you to talk about how the others are making sure that police culture that has been a problem throughout this country isn't overshadowing all the good things that you're trying to do here in Malden.
right. Well, I do believe that all of those factors, all of those elements, I'll tell you know what else happens? And I had this conversation today. A Malden cop that leaves roll call is better suited than probably most cops in the country. He's in the most diverse city in Massachusetts. He has to go out and navigate the whole world. The whole world. And they do it. They do it. 70 languages at the high school. They do it. They overcome, they adapt. Are we perfect? No. It's a recurring theme from me. Imperfect people doing a job that is fundamentally noble in all of its endeavors. But a police officer in Malden goes out and he visits the world in 4 square miles. That's a learning experience. That's better than a lot of training. There comes a point in time when you have to live what you live in. It has to have an effect on you. And it does. And that is why if I took somebody from a community that was all white and said, you're going to go out and be a Malden cop for the day, their best effort would be good, but at the end of the day, they might be like, wow, I never had anything like
Kevin,
that.
you mentioned...
When somebody becomes a Malden police officer, Neil, we ask them what they know about the community. We just had somebody transfer here from another city, and he picked Malden because of the potential that it offers, the potential for the challenges, for the potential for the rewards, for the potential for the belief that he is part of something dynamic, diverse, and vibrant.
Kevin, have you started looking at all at some of the, you mentioned, you used the phrase, many things that are thrust at the police officers that maybe not they're best suited for. Have you been to look at some of the potential things that should be shifted someplace else? I mean, like, for example, you know, you guys no longer do the ticketing and the parking regulation, you know, to free you up to do more police stuff. Are there other things that you may be looking at that you could free up and pass those things off to someone who perhaps doesn't have the badge and the gun?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a very good point, Neil. If I were to bring a cop back from the 1960s and put him out there's things going on that they wouldn't know. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. COVID-19 happens. Who's the one telling kids they can't play in the park?
Yeah.
The one telling somebody, you know, that there's another restriction. I mean, it's the cop. It pits police against the public.
You get thrust into those things. And so I think part of what we need to be looking at is how do we look at the things that are best suited for the cops to be doing and best suited for others to be doing, because putting the cops in always in confrontation relationships with the community, I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster. And I think that's what we've been seeing around the country.
No, and I will tell you this, it's not a problem here, but there are examples in the country where this is no reflection on the city council, but we know that there are places in the country where laws get passed, city ordinance get passed that are oppressive to the poor people in that town. And the cops are the ones that have to enforce those rules. And eventually there develops a divide between the police and that community. Now we don't have oppressive rules here, but that's on the issue of community relations. It's wrong if the police become identified as someone who is the oppressive form of government. But I will tell you, we have expanded into many, many areas. We had somebody call just the other day, a family member is having a problem with cocaine. They want the police to go there and help with some type of referral to services. But, I mean, the police are always going to be having to respond to crisis. I mean, I was at a call recently, a mental health breakdown during COVID. The family wanted a young man committed, and he climbed out on the roof, and he was, threatening to jump. I mean, that's an immediate crisis that the police should go to. But I agree with you. There are many, many broadened areas of the world of policing that continue to place burden and more burden on the police. And it seems like that we are considered the front line of all of society's problems. And I actually was quite relieved today when I saw Representative Karen Bass, the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, when she said that the word defund the police is a terrible rallying cry, and that law enforcement officers shouldn't have become involved in situations that can be handled by social workers. And then, she goes on to say, police officers are the first ones to say that they are law enforcement officers. They're not social workers. What we have done in our country is we have not invested in health, social, and economic problems in the community. We leave the police to pick up the pieces. That's what she said. We leave the police to pick up the pieces. So her wisdom.
So what she said was a different way of what you said. We're being thrust into many things that really aren't our bailiwick, but you're thrust into them. Absolutely.
Right. And in many occasions, the outcome might not be perceived as
productive,
a positive or a productive, interaction. So I am telling you that police officers today are doing more than they've ever been asked to do. And they're doing it in many, many challenging situations, including particularly now when there is an environment out there that is applying blame to people that are not involved in the specific area that is causing the outrage.
Well, there's racism and all of that in every facet of society, and it's just so obvious in the hostile police interaction with Black and brown people that has gone bad. We need to change that. We need to work on that. And I think we're all saying that, and we just need to find better ways of doing it.
And again, Representative Bass, the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, she said, substance abuse and similar issues. Why do police officers have to clean up all of society's problems? She's asking that question. I mean, and within that quote, Neil, she's essentially sympathizing, I believe, with the tremendous role or burdens that, cops have had to, undertake while they're dealing with their primary, mission of community safety, community relations, and reducing crime and the fear of crime.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say to that, that what I think she's doing is what we in the city council are responsible for doing, and that is setting policies and making sure that the things that our departments, police and others are doing are in the best interest of our city. And if we need to look at these, we need to examine ourselves, we need to be willing, as you mentioned earlier, look, learn, see if we're doing the right things, and if we're not, we need to change it. So with that, I will yield my time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, and thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Councilman Anderson. Thank you very much. That was a good line of questioning. Thank you, Chief Mullis, for answering those questions. Difficult things to talk about. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. And thank you so much for the public and all the members of the force that are watching into today. I guess it's a great thing with Zoom that more people can participate. And I just really want to say to the whole force that on the behalf of the whole community, that we really appreciate you, the tough work you're doing right now in terms of all the things that are going on in 2020 between COVID-19 and just the general background of protests and that type of thing that that are raising all these issues that really need to be raised. So appreciate that. So Chief, just something I know that the department was working on before 2020 was working to become a certified department. So can you give a little background on what that involves, and is a level funding budget going to affect the department's ability to follow through on getting certification?
No, it shouldn't. Certification is where a police agency, and this is a national goal of many agencies, where there are considered policies and procedures that are kind of the best practices in the industry. Topical conversation we're having right now would be use of force, okay? Every police department has a use of force policy. I can provide you with and show you our use of force policy that has not been adopted in reaction to the murder of George Floyd. It is something that went into effect long before that. And I think it will be enlightening, reassuring to you and to members of the public. But Steve, that's kind of an example where the process of certification would have a department conform their policies and procedures to practices that have been vetted and tested for a variety of reasons and are considered the best way of doing business. As you know, certifications and standards are something that hospitals undergo, educational facilities undergo, and it's a matter of finding policies and procedures that give a very, very clear instruction on what is the best way to do things. The use of force one is comprehensive. It has plenty of information in there about de-escalation, the use of force continuum, the need for documentation. There has been much talk recently about the 8-point goal. All 8 goals are met in that policy. Again, I would be glad to provide this with anyone. And what I would also welcome anyone on the council to do is reach out to me to come by and we can sit down and go over it point by point. I think that would be even a better way of doing it. So
great. I will take you up on that opportunity.
But that's kind of an example, Steve. It's something that we can continue to accomplish, and I think particularly in this time that we're in, I think it would be even a greater reassurance for people to know that the policies and procedures in those critical areas that are being legitimately looked at, that are being legitimately questioned by people who sincerely want to know the answer, would be a source of enlightenment and reassurance. However, I will say this, A policy is only as good as the organization that claims to embrace it. That is why, woven within that policy, there is also a documentation protocol, a review protocol, in a series of oversight that makes sure that the words are not empty words, that the standards are not something that is just offered as a catchphrase or a slogan. They are specific, they are real, and they are a guiding light that people should be reassured by, and those that are in the duty and responsibility of carrying those out, I actually believe are safer because of them.
All right, well, thank you, and I thank you. And my second question is going to be about the 8 points. You already answered that, so we're ahead of the game, all before all this came up, and that's a tribute to the great work of the force. So thank you. I'll yield the rest of the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. So a note on time here, we are at 6:30. We're gonna keep going. I don't want to stop this right now. We still have some questions, folks in the queue to ask some questions. So for anybody coming onto the Zoom now, who's here for the public hearing, we will move into the public hearing after this. The public hearing is going to cover the budget altogether, and then we'll hear comments from the public, whether you're for or against the budget as a whole. That will not be a question and answer period, but for us to listen to public sentiment, and we'll take those comments in. But I will continue now with this question and answer period, because I think there's some important topics here and important questions being asked. So we'll move now to Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chief, for being here. I just had it's not a couple of questions that are not necessarily related to the budget as we are looking at it. Am I unmuted? Okay. Chief, as you talked about, Representative Bass, and really saying that the police are really not social workers, mental health counselors but I was wondering if there's an opportunity to look at maybe some of the grants that we have already in place, or maybe there are other ones that we can really look at again to sort of repurpose, redesign, reimagine how actually the police might get some of those sort of reinforcements so they do have the backup. I do know that, for example, I know that, Malden and you in particular have brought in Respond,
Yes.
real experts in domestic violence. And so just wondering, I think that's been a great resource because, for me, if there's something going on, but as some of the works in a nonprofit, that sometimes things that have happened, I've been able to reach out to the police and get to respond in a way that I think it is a better way. So I'm not sure if there's any grants that we already have in place that, for example, I know the SHIELD grant funds really work with youth and gang violence, gangs and youth violence in a multi-pronged approach. So I'm just wondering if we can look at some of those grants and sort of say, this is how we've been doing it, but maybe in the context of what has been going on, how we rethink how we're gonna engage the police with the community.
Right. So to be clear, there are situations that manifest themselves that the police are always going to be responding to. A mental health crisis, while it's manifesting itself, for example, the one I said, the gentleman who went out onto a roof threatening to jump, or a substance abuse withdrawal that is becoming violent, or a confrontational thing between family members, that's going to require, always going to require the initial intervention of the police. Where it becomes a joint partnership with the police, some other social service agency would be, is when we would have a regular referral mechanism that we could bring these problems to those organizations in the hope that there could be a path toward prevention or rehabilitation. A perfect example of that would be opioid addiction, where police officers can respond to an overdose, provide medical aid, and also have a backup or a follow-up with the city's recovery coach and maybe get that person into recovery. So that would be kind of a joint partnership. So when I do say that the police are not social workers, we certainly are the ones that do respond to the manifestations of crisis in people's lives. And that will always be the case. But it would be helpful if the police had partners in the variety of issues that occur. Domestic violence is the perfect example. We have a family services detective, but we also have a relationship with Respond that provides services to victims, support systems through the court, a shelter for people that are in fear, and that's a tremendous partnership. It's an empowering things to vulnerable victims. That's a great example of it. If we could have a regular relationship with a variety of social service providers, that would be a great thing. I mean, we have situations where we deal repeatedly with people that have mental health problems, drug problems, family problems, and it's only through a partnership, a prevention, and a problem solving that we're going to be able to get away from the repeated use of the police to respond to these calls. Now, how do you do that? Grants are often the answer, and that would be something that we could clearly look at. We could have permanent partnerships with members in different social service entities that become the referral person. If we have someone with a mental health crisis, someone who's homeless, homelessness is a problem that Malden police officers deal with, you know, each and every day, whether it be around the train station or just, you know, depending upon the economic situation in the world. Here's another one. The economy has problems. Police deal with the attendant problems related to that. It's always something that could manifest itself in a police thing. So Peg, I would welcome the innovation through grants. I mean, you've done a great job for my department through the YWCA there, and I think it's clearly the way to go, because whatever we can do to eliminate the need for the police to repeatedly go. I remember back in the old days, I mean, Bill Bratton, one of the most innovative police managers in history, always talked about when he was a Boston cop, the cops got sent to the corner, I think, of I and 7th Street in South Boston 1,000 times in 1 year. Move the kids along, move the kids along. And he finally said, why don't we figure out why they're hanging around here all the time? Maybe we can find a job for them. Maybe we can find an alternative thing. So he eliminated 1,000 calls to the police by finding an alternative to just going along and moving them along. So, I mean, all of those things would be helpful. It would be a partnership, because I think you're always going to need the police when there is a manifestation of the crisis, but it's what you deal with once the crisis has been identified.
And of course, I didn't think that the police would not be showing up to all of these, but it is, you know, to give the police officers the supports that they need in dealing with someone that is having a mental health crisis. You're trying to keep them safe, but you know, someone that understands how to de-escalate that in a very particular manner. So I do think we will reach out and we'll kind of talk if there's other, because we have Elliott and Malden right down the street from
right. I will tell you that we do have a relationship going with something called the Hub, HUB. It's not an acronym, but it means like the different spokes in a wheel coming together. It's a meeting that happens, I believe, every couple of weeks. I send a representative there, and it's a combination of social workers, probation officers, mental health workers. And what we try to do is give them the name or the identity of someone who seems to be lost and without any services. Again, it's always dependent upon that person wanting to get some type of help, but it's a collaboration and it's something that we are doing. But again, I think anything that can be a source of healing the problem and a way of alleviating the repeated, need for the police. The best thing for any city or any family or any police department is when somebody turns their life around. We all know that. We all know that. It's whether it's somebody that you've arrested many times, whatever changes their life, and they come up to you and says, you know something, it's not going to happen anymore. I got a job, I got a family, I got responsibilities. This is not the life I want to live. It's a very uplifting thing for any cop who does his job for the right reasons. And it's actually one of the most powerful moments in any cop's career when somebody that they used to see in a whole different encounter comes up to them and says that, you're not going to see me in that situation again. So again, it's the triumph of the human condition that, we try to be optimistic. I always quote Bing Crosby, accentuate the positive and try to eliminate the negative.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. So we're a bit over time again. So just to give us a status update here, Councilors O'Malley and Spatafora are next. They haven't spoken yet. And then we'll see where we are with time. We have a few folks who are raising their hand for the second round of questions, which is something I would like us to be able to get to. I would like the committee to maybe consider capping this at maybe 7 o'clock. I don't want to push us too far over the into the time frame for the public hearing. I do want to keep going with the questions, but just a reminder here. So, Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief, for coming tonight. To Councilor Anderson's point, and even to what you said earlier about things being thrust upon the police, in the modern era. As the ward councilor that represents Waits Mount, you hear from me often about everything that's going on up there. And I do think it's worth us thinking about how we can structure our city in the future so that we can make sure that police are focused on police work, detective work, fighting crime, and not the smaller quality of life issues that maybe, as Councilor Anderson said, parking enforcement officers, park rangers, compliance officers, social workers can do. We had talked last week about, the mental health of your officers. And I think that putting police officers on the front line as the safety net of the society, while that is necessary, we have to think about how we can lessen that burden for everyone. I'm not sure if you know, but currently the school department in Malden is also being level funded. And currently the best case scenario, they are going to have layoffs. And it's the only city department in Malden that will have layoffs. But if our cherry sheet comes from the state and it's not what we expect and it's less than that, then we're all going to have really tough decisions to make. We're going to see teachers being laid off, and we're going to be seeing layoffs in other departments. Right now, we have a total of $750,000 earmarked to overtime in various budgets across the city. If we have tough decisions to make in the future, which we likely may, would you recommend that we go for overtime first before we start going for staff positions?
Yeah, absolutely, because I do believe that the way that we are constructed as a department, delivery of service based on our population, our density, our sector-based deployment, is dependent upon the numbers that we have. And I would also say that it would be painful to the community to reach a point where the good things that we're able to do in the areas of school resources, downtown coverage with Jean Lamore, all of the things that are woven into the various layers of public safety. And I want to be clear to emphasize that it is not based upon an overemphasis on enforcement of the laws and arrest. It is a multifaceted, community-based approach to policing. And I think that it is important that if you were to reduce the size of the department, you would also be increasing the burden on the officers to carry out their tasks. And within that burden would be the increased problem that you began your comments by saying would be the wellness and the overall health of them. Because I do not believe that there is any job that carries with it more risk and more burden, but more reward than that your cops do every day. So it would be a tough choice, but I am confident when I look at the way we send our people out into our city that we do it the right way with the right priority. There is no assignment that anyone has that does not bring value to the community.
Thank you, Chief. I agree with you. I think that whatever we can do to maintain our staffing levels is crucial. What would we change operationally in order to meet that demand of reduced overtime, potentially eliminating all overtime with the current staffing levels?
All right, so not knowing I was going to get hit with that one, if somebody told me I had to eliminate overtime, I would have to then look at assignments that are not foundationally in patrol and see if I could shift them to offset the things that cause overtime. Now, some of the things that cause overtime are contractual. People are entitled to vacations. They're entitled to personal days. They're entitled to sick days when they're ill. They're entitled to family medical leave when applicable. So the things that, and there are also examples when officers get injured in the line of duty. So all of those things are causes of overtime by no fault of anybody. They're entitled to it. And if those gaps occur, and I have to provide a level of coverage to the community, and let's face it, the foundational mission of policing is in patrol. The sector cars that police your wards, the cops that respond to 911 calls in your wards. We would tend to become a reactionary police department that is based upon the 3 R's, random patrol, rapid response, and reactive investigation. And history has proven that that is not the way to do it. It creates a disconnect with the public because the only time you encounter them is when they call 911. Bill Bratton identified that as one of the most detrimental philosophies in policing, the 3 R's, random patrol, rapid response, reactive investigations. You have to have woven into that partnership, problem solving, and prevention. And that's what we do. We mesh the 3 R's with the 3 P's, but we would also like to see the 3 M's, monitoring, ministering, and mentoring. And those are some of the most beautiful things that a cop can do. So again, Ryan, I understand what you're saying. That would be a tough call. There would be consequences to it. And I don't say consequences like I'm just throwing that out there. There are realities to it.
Thank you. I hope we don't have to cross the bridge. Hopefully the state comes in and gives us the money we need to operate.
Right.
We have to keep that in mind in the back of our heads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Spatafor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief Mullis. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I'm going to make a statement and then I will get to the question, in which I think you've answered in a couple ways, but I think from the public's perspective, maybe need a little bit more clarity. So the first thing I will tell you is I don't believe in the term defunding the police. I think it's political drive to drive us to a high crime wave that could come back. It wasn't that long ago as a counselor when you could not go in Maplewood Square, and we had to call in the Middlesex County Sheriff team and some of their officers, or at least some of their equipment, to help us with this. And I think if you look at any textbook, whether it's business, whether it's political science, or civil service, you will read that there is a link between crime and the growth of a city economically. And I think what we've been realizing up until the pandemic is especially the city of Malden, we've spent a lot of money in the police department, and that has come back to help us economically. Certainly, we have certainly our home and business value has grown exponentially. So I am not in support of defunding the police in any manner. I think we've benefited tremendously under you as the chief and past chiefs. And to me, it's a short-term play for a longer-term fix. But what I will say is I think what Council Anderson was probably saying too is, while you might not think it's here now, and certainly I know a lot of the cops here, and I don't think there is any, at least that I know, cops that acted like the ones that we've seen over the last couple of weeks that murdered those individuals. I think what we're looking for is when you retire, or in 20 years from now, what policies can the Malden police put in place to make sure it doesn't happen? And my question is going to be, when you have a bad, you looked at the last two shootings, you see these records of these cops. It is no surprise to anybody that they discharge their firearms. In fact, I think one of the cops in Atlanta discharged his firearm the week before. So it just like crime, you look at somebody's rap sheet, you are going to see the same type with a cop. And I realize that, I think everybody realizes, even the cops realize, police are not perfect. And some of them, they take a sip out of the power fountain too often, and those are the bad cops. And unfortunately, Chief, I think you would agree, it's not always easy to get rid of a bad police officer. Now, I don't think we have that problem now. I like I said, I know most of the cops, but what policies can we put in practice to make sure that if we do have an individual or individuals that come police officers and take the power too much, how do we put policies in, whether it be having a civilian oversight board, or easier to fire bad cops? Because the last thing we want to see in any community, especially in Malden, is to have a bad cop stay on the force. And there are some laws that protect them. And I think most cops will agree they don't want to be put in that category. So what can we do in that way? Not necessarily for now, Chief, but for the future generations, not only of police officers, but certainly for my children. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, so on a local level,
yeah,
if your concern is about Malden, you have to make sure that whoever you give the honor and privilege of being the police chief, that it is clear what your values and your expectations are, and hold that person accountable to those values and expectations. That's the first thing you can do. Secondarily, you have to ensure that the rules are made abundantly clear to the people who work there and the people who you hire. The hiring process is critical. It's important to have policies in place that allow the public to freely make complaints when they feel they are aggrieved, and that those complaints are documented and investigated and closed out in a way that is thorough, fair, objective, and transparent. Now, when you get to the issue of job action against somebody who has done wrong, clearly there is a process that goes on with civil service and with arbitration and all of the legal issues that are attendant to police discipline, civil service discipline, or just municipal employee discipline. So there's a reason why those things exist, and I would say that some of them have exposed times when you've been in disagreement with the outcome. But there has to be a process, a due process, an adversarial system where the rights of people are protected. However, I think what you have to do, again, for now and for the future, you have to hold people accountable for what you expect of them, and it starts with who you have at the top. And that's kind of the best way out there. On the other thing, you would have to deal legislatively with any identified deficiencies that you feel exist in the process of discipline within the context of civil service and arbitration. And I'll even get back to something you said. I don't know this, I didn't read this. If somebody was involved in a police shooting a week ago, it doesn't make any sense that they are back out on the street a week later. That, first of all, wouldn't be beneficial to the officer in a mental health situation if someone was involved in a shooting.
Yeah, I might have been March, Chief. I might have misspoke, but it was pretty.
I'm not
It was.
just saying, I'm
Yeah.
not just
No,
saying.
I understand.
I want to be clear that.
No, that's fair. Yeah,
that
I
there's
might have.
great progress made in law enforcement, recognizing the need for, in the aftermath of a police use of force incident, to look at it not only within the context of the investigatory thing, but within the context of the impact it has had on officers who, more often than not, feel a stressful impact as a result of a justified use of force incident. I mean, it's well documented that police officers who do the job for the right reason, who find themselves in a situation where a life is taken, their life is never the same afterwards.
Yep.
So that's something that has been on the forefront of, on the progressive side of law enforcement too.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Scott. Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Chief, I think all this information is so very helpful, and especially for the public that's listening in and as well as us. But I'm all about the citizens. Would you be open to a more public transparency in the form of a citizens review board to assist and collaborate with Malden Police Department's complaints and policies?
I mean, I'd have to, have a conversation about that. I'm very open to a transparent environment where members of the public feel extremely comfortable and engaged in our police department and our city government, in all elements of it, reflect the values and the diversity of the people. Now, I welcome any opportunity to sit down with people. I have had some great interactions over the past 2 weeks. As a result of that, I want to continue to build upon the level of trust and healing that I've been experiencing, the level of support. So I, internally within the police, am hoping to start to have regular use of our community room.
Great.
For members of the public to come in and just sit and talk and explain how they feel, what they're seeing, what's going on, and have members of the shift sit down. So it becomes more of a common part of who we are, which we do try to do, but I realize the value in building upon that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you're talking about, Debbie, clearly would need more of a formal conversation about like what it would involve and, what would be any, guidelines and restrictions of that nature. But I think more people that come to know who their police department is, the Malden Police,
Mm-hmm.
come to know who we are and what we're all about, they will come away with a better feeling about the town that they live in, the city they live in, and who it is that is out there doing their best to try to protect them. And I think that is going to be on the forefront of our mission, more so than it's ever been. Because I think that this will be won or lost through the relationships that we take every opportunity to build.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. That's a great start, a roundtable conversation. I think that's wonderful. Just one more budget question, if you don't mind. I know
Sure.
that there's weapons and firearms in the budget, but I'm not quite sure where it is. Where is the line item in that, and what is the budget for that? I don't know why I was having an issue with that.
Okay, so with regard to firearms, unlike the vest, say, or some other item, an officer gets issued a firearm, and that will probably last 10 or 11 years on average. And then there is the wear and tear, the breakdown of it just by the natural, exposure to the elements. So we're not going out and buying new weapons every year, Debbie. So that would only be something that we would be buying when a new officer gets hired, if we have to issue a new one. And just so you know, the handgun that a Malden police officer has is a standard weapon that is consistent with the type of firearm that is within the industry. The one that we carry is not in any way have a lethality or a power beyond what is acceptable for modern policing. So there's really no big item with regard to purchase of weapons, because it's not something that we would have to do every year. The only thing that we would be buying, and mostly for training purposes, would be ammunition, so officers could use that at the range.
Yeah, and hopefully that's covered within a grant, which is what you said earlier.
I'd have to talk to Terry on that one, but I don't think it is a staggering amount. But again, it's a fixed cost that we know every year. I can tell you this. I don't expect anyone to know this, but it might be good for people to understand. I believe I'm correct in saying this, that there has not been a shot fired in the community by the Malden police since 2012.
Really? That's great news.
Well, I am glad to hear your positive reaction and your genuine sense of pleasant surprise. I don't think anybody else knew that either.
Wow.
It was 2012.
Yeah.
And the facts and circumstances in that one were violent individuals had robbed a bank in Saugus with wearing body armor, heavily armed, came to Malden and carjacked a vehicle with a woman and a child. And the officers rescued the woman, and then they were confronted by two gunmen. So that was the last time, 2012, that I believe a Malden police officer discharged his firearm in the city of Malden. And I am pleased to see the look on all your faces.
Well, thank you, Chief. I know there's more questions. We could talk to you for hours. Thanks a million.
I would be glad to come back anytime, and I apologize if my answers
well,
just more
it's almost twofold with the racial, crisis going on and the budget. So thank you. I yield my questions.
Thank you very much. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I remember those days of Maplewood Square. I also remember being on Salem Street and having to have the state police and the sheriff's department come in because of a number of discharge of firearms that happened there when I was the first counselor. So I'm very happy to say that the streets of Malden, seem quite safe these days from the time that I actually took over. But having said that, there's safety for police officers and there's safety for the public. And Chief, my question to you is a question that has come up in emails that I've gotten, and also in just talking to people generally about it. And something that hasn't been addressed yet, but I think it's important for you to speak to before this ends tonight. And that is Malden does not have or use body cameras with their police department.
Correct.
And I would like you to speak to your feelings on their use, because I know that they do not only show what a police officer has done, but they show what leads up to it and maybe what they were faced with during a scenario that the public is not seeing because someone with a cell phone has just taken the end result of it. So I guess my question to you is, it can be good and bad for anybody on either side. What's your feeling about body cameras? What is the impediments to getting them for the Malden police, and what is the impediments to getting them for the Malden police force?
Excellent question, Barbara. I have no philosophical or professional opposition to body cameras, and I have not encountered anyone in law enforcement who has a good argument against them. I will tell you the realities. If a city wants to institute body cameras, there is a financial cost. You would have to purchase them. You would have to maintain the storage of the video for purposes of court, and to look at if there was an incident required, looking at the footage. And then also you would have to sit down with the members of both unions that are impacted in the workplace because of that. But I will tell you, the police officers that I speak with are very, very confident in the way that they conduct themselves professionally, and would be open to that level of validation of their professionalism. So if the city were to look at something like body cameras, they could do so looking at probably the two-pronged necessity of the purchase, the maintenance, and also the implementation through the efforts of those that would be wearing them. So I hope you hear what I'm saying, that there is not an obstacle or an impediment on a philosophical or an operational level. I believe that they are effective, and the video has helped exonerate many police officers, and it can also provide clarity to what eyewitness testimony is oftentimes flawed because of the emotion of the moment.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. And now I'm going to what I hope we can agree is going to be our last question of this meeting, so we can move on to the public hearing. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, I'd just like you to comment briefly on, you think back 40 years ago and the number of cars on the street, number of vehicles. And I think that's a prime example how it's increased the responsibilities of the police. And then you look at the increase in our population and you weigh that against how many police officers we've increased to handle that added responsibility. And I don't think it's very many, to be honest with you, the numbers I can remember through the years. And I'd just like to have you comment on that briefly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm admittedly biased. I love my job, and I sincerely love the cops. I actually told them that today at roll call in so many words. I go to roll call for them, but I go for my own benefit because it makes me feel something indescribable to stand in front of people that are willing to do what they do. Oftentimes for people who might not appreciate them or understand who they are. It's one of the most beautiful things you could see. So Paul, I will tell you, I've been on the department 40 years. I've lived in the city my whole life like you. The city has evolved. The burdens have shifted. The duties and responsibilities have shifted. The fact that these men and women have been able to do what they do with the numbers that they have is a great testament to them. But you know something? It's a great testament to the amount of good people that live in this city. Because if I were to propose to someone that you're going to take a city and transform it into the most diverse city in Massachusetts, and how is your police department going to be able to accommodate that? Most people would say that's going to be an unbearable burden and not going to be able to do it. But they have. But it's a tribute to the good people in this city, those that are inherently good, the vast majority. Those are the ones that make our job meaningful, and we have seen that outpouring of support this week. Because when the word defunding started, I actually had people send me checks in the mail to the police station saying that we want to help fund you. I will tell you, the checks were returned with gratitude because I let them know that all I need from them is their good citizenship. And that's all I ask for. So the level of support, level of trust has been overwhelming, but I will tell you, the cops at roll call, cops working right now, you have the right to think whatever you want of us. You're entitled to that opinion, and we will still come and save your life if needed. If you call 911, we don't ask. The cops at roll call, cops working right now. So Paul, I admit the city clearly has gotten busier for me. I used to walk Maplewood Square and ring a box with no radio. I can't imagine doing that now. But we do the best we can with what we got. And I would say that being a young cop back in the 1960s and having to chase you around Edgeworth would have been a very difficult thing, because I'm told that you were, quite fast and fleet of foot.
A squirrel could catch me.
Oh.
But my final comment is I want people to think about one thing. You had a police officer in Georgia that discharged his weapon twice in a period of a month or two. In this city of over 60,000 people, there hasn't been an officer in our department that has discharged his weapon in 12 years. And that, you're right, it's a tribute to the police department and the people in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Condon. And on behalf of the whole Finance Committee and the City Council, I want to say thank you very much to Chief Mullis for coming in here and fielding a wide variety of questions. Thank you very much. This was important. It's important from a democratic process and for our community. So appreciate it.
Dave, if I could just thank everyone. You've always treated me with dignity, respect, kindness, professionalism. And I welcome any questions you have, because they mean that you are representing the people and you're bringing questions to me. And this is a great example of how government's supposed to work. I very much appreciate it. And I also want to, for 10 seconds, thank the Malden High School students who brought this city together to walk down Eastern Avenue to Lincoln Commons and let your cops and anybody that wanted to stand there, express their opinion, exercise their First Amendment rights in a way that shows that not only are we in good shape now because of you, we look good in the future because of these high school students who realize that it's important to get involved. So I thank you for your involvement, your willingness to serve, and I thank those kids for giving us the opportunity in that example. It means a lot to me to be able to talk to you right now, and I look forward to the day we can go to that new city hall and I can appear before you sometime. But again, what I said earlier, I encourage any of you to reach out to me, any question, anytime, doesn't matter. And let's have more conversations about who we are, what our policies are, what our expectations are, and the way we can do our job better, and the way we can, help the city be even better than it is right now. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Chief.
So we're going to move now into the public hearing portion. I do have a question. It might be a question towards Solicitor Fallon or Clerk Lucy. The way we docketed these was sort of separately. So do we have a move to adjourn, or do we continue on with can we continue on with the Finance Committee and just have the hearing within this meeting and adjourn when we're done with that?
I would say we have a motion to adjourn and then a motion to open the public hearing.
Everybody agree with that? Sounds good? All right. So motion to adjourn by Councilor Anderson.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Di Maria. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. The Finance Committee meeting is adjourned. We will now open the public hearing. We are going to, a couple things. What we're going to do is we're going to do roll call. We'll also have a bit of a technical moment here where Mr. Ron Cochran is going to give me a hand here, and I'm going to make him the host. As the clerk calls the roll, I'm going to turn the post over.
Anderson,
Anderson here.
Kamel,
Kamel here.
Condon,
Condon here.
Grow,
Here.
Grow, Di
Here.
Maria,
Di Maria here.
Linehan,
Linehan here.
Murphy,
Murphy here.
O'Malley,
Here.
Spatafora, We'll get back to Craig. Winslow,
Winslow here.
Sika,
Sika here.
10 present.
Okay, so now is the part of the evening. This is the public hearing. What this is going to consist of is comments by the public. We would ask that you raise your hand in the through the Zoom functionality here. We'll have Mr. Cochran select you. So we're going to have in two sections. First, we're going to start with those who want to speak in favor of the budget as it is. After those comments are completed and finished, we'll close that section of the public hearing and move to the section where those who want to speak out against the budget the way it is. And then we'll go through those comments. Now, obviously, the reality is a lot of people will have some nuance in there. So I would leave it to your judgment, to the judgment of the residents to pick the portion which most aligns to your sentiment. And so now, can we have those who wish to speak in favor of the budget? Please step forward. Please make yourself known via the raising hand button on the Zoom, please.
Councilor Kamel, just wanted to review quickly the procedure just for everyone that's on the call. So if you are attending using the Zoom software, the process would be to click on the Q&A button and then click the Ask Question button. And in that box that's shown, you can enter your full name and home address for the record. And this will give us a time-stamped chat so that we can see that you've requested, and that way we can take these requests in order. Alternatively, if you're attending by phone only, you can also participate. And the way that you do so is by hitting *9 on your phone, which will indicate to us that you've raised your hand. And we don't have a timestamp, but we will do our best to try to, or I will do my best to try to see when you raised your hand to try to take these in order. So again, we are looking for those right now. We already have a couple queued, so I'll get to those. And there are a few folks that are in here that have indicated their questions in the chat functionality. So I just wanted to make sure that you please direct your request over to the Q&A functionality. So I'll try to dismiss those in the chat and get you to go over to Q&A. But we do have our first participant of the evening, and I will go ahead and announce your name. Oh, and by the way, if you are participating and raising your hand by phone number only, I will liven up your phone and then announce your last 4 digits of your phone number so that we know that we're talking to you, essentially. Okay, first is Deb Gesualdo, President of Malden Education Association, 34 Abington Road, Danvers, to speak in favor of the budget. And hang on one second, Deb, I will unmute you. And go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Deb Gesualdo, President of the Malden Education Association. I hope that you and all of your loved ones have been safe and well during what has been a really difficult time for so many people. I thank you for the hard work you've all done looking over the budget and all of the many, many line items. I know it's not an easy task, and I certainly don't envy any of you doing that, but it is certainly very much appreciated. I'm speaking in favor of the budget because even though the school department's budget is level funded, it's better than having more cuts than what are already handed down. Level funding means approximately 40 positions left unfilled, but it doesn't mean massive layoffs in our schools. And we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has really laid bare the inequities that exist in our public schools, and the defunding of our public education system is just a glaring example of the systemic racism that exists and leaves our students and communities of color behind. So I think it's really important that the funding for the schools are not reduced at all. Our students have just one chance at their education. And even in really difficult times like this, we really need to support our students in every way possible. And we can't continue to accept the defunding of our schools. And I hope that I can count on everyone on the council to support the school budget and the budget as a whole, but I also hope I can count on you as allies and advocates to make sure that the state and federal government don't bankrupt our district and our city by unfunded mandates. Thank you.
Disabled talking for Deb. We actually have one person additional that's in the queue, but they did indicate that they're going to wait until the against portion. So I'm just going to keep them in the queue. As of now, I do not see anyone else that has indicated that they want to speak for. I don't know if you want to wait another minute or so just to see if anyone else wants to indicate that. I'll keep looking.
Let's just give it a minute in case folks are collecting their thoughts. And just another reminder, please include your name and address when you do go to that Q&A functionality.
Still hearing and seeing none at this point.
Yeah, maybe literally about another minute, about another 60 seconds, just in case folks are trying to get through. Because once we close this section of the meeting, we just move on to the next one. So just give it a bit of a breather here. Okay, hearing no other residents coming forward to speak for, or hearing none, I declare this portion of the public hearing closed. We'll now open the public hearing to those who want to speak against the budget.
Okay, we do have someone first in the queue, and that is Stacy Gilchrist of 92 Porter Street. Hang on one second, Stacy, while I unmute your line. Okay, Stacy.
Hello.
Yep. Go
Hello,
ahead.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, great, thank you. I don't really know that my question or comment qualify as being against the budget, but it seemed like the better of the two categories. I've worked with budgets before in the past in different jobs and organizations. I know they happen on a calendar. As someone, I was just listening in on the previous session, the Q&A with Chief Mollis, and I'm sure that all of you are aware that there are many people in Malden having conversations right now about what our police force looks like now and will in the future. And obviously the budget hasn't taken any of that into account. And so I would just like to kind of hear a confirmation from you, or to know, once this budget is passed, this is sort of the plan for the next fiscal year, or should we decide to change staffing levels in the police department or create new community resources? Is that able to even happen in this next fiscal year if this is the budget that's passed? And I just want to say that I'm sure many listeners on the previous session have many questions and comments, and I sincerely hope that there'll be an opportunity created for us to share them.
Thank you, Stacy. I do not see any other indications at this time, either through the Q&A function or callers that have indicated they raised their hand. So I guess we'll give some more time as we did previous.
Definitely, we want to give folks an opportunity. I know that they've waited some time here, so definitely want to be patient with them if they're again collecting their thoughts, trying to figure out what to say, or having any technical difficulty. So let's be patient and give them the time and space they need.
Still hearing and seeing none. Councilor Kamal.
We're going to give it another, at this point, we'll give it one more minute, literally a minute, literally 60 seconds here. I'm sure folks out there know you can also, obviously you can email or correspond with us in a variety of ways. We're always listening, but certainly want to give the opportunity for folks out there to have their voices literally heard through this hearing. So one more minute. Okay, so hearing none, I declare this portion of the public hearing closed. I want to thank folks for being patient and hanging on to this point. We will incorporate those. Well, I'll take those comments into consideration as we continue the debate in committee and when we move to the floor. And also, I know all of the councilors are very responsive to all the means of communication that we have. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn public hearing by Councilor DiMaria. Any second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Linehan. Let's just do a roll call if we can.
Sure. Anderson. Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Kamel.
Kamel, yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
I'm not on committee.
It's a full council.
Public hearing.
It's a full council.
It's a public hearing for the budget.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
11-0.
All right, I want to thank everybody for their participation and their patience. What we're going to do now is we're going to transition over to the full city council and go on with that agenda. Thank you, folks.
City clerk, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, let me just get my papers here. I'm ready. I'm good.
Mr. Cochran, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Would you like me to transfer hosting over to you?
Please.
Yep. Here you go.
Okay. So unfortunately, this evening I'm having some issues with my my camera, so I'm going to have to address it before next meeting, so you will not be able to see me this evening. So the council will come to order. All rise and salute the flag closest to you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
and to the republic
Which stands
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
liberty,
and justice for all.
justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. You may sit. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Anderson, here.
Kamel. Kamel.
Kamel here.
Condon.
Condon here.
Crow.
Here.
DeMaria.
DeMaria here.
Linehan.
Linehan here.
Murphy.
Murphy here.
O'Malley.
Here.
Spatafora.
Spatafora here.
Winslow.
Winslow here.
Sika.
Sika here.
All 11 accounted for.
Under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that one of our Malden residents, John Mayara, along with MATV and Ron Cochran, will be recording this evening's meeting. So just be aware there will be audio and video recording of this meeting. First order of business.
Under guest citizen achievement, Zaida Ortiz from the Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors will speak before the council.
Okay, hold on one second. Go ahead, Mr. Cochran. Okay. Good evening,
Zaida.
Zaida. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to start by thanking several of you individually, starting with Amanda for sponsoring me this evening and helping us get Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors off the ground. I also want to thank Debbie DeMaria for helping us reach out to our seniors and doing an amazing job making phone calls and checking in. I want to also thank Peg Crow and Neil Anderson for being an amazing sounding board and connectors to members of our community. And lastly, I'd like to give a special thanks to Karen Cologne Hayes, who time and time again has helped us find solutions, resources, and help us build our people power. Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors was founded this March and is rooted in the traditions of mutual aid. Our mission is about building community, not another charity. We have responded to over 300 requests for help. We've mobilized our volunteers to get laptops to over 700 students, increasing accessibility to learning. We've delivered countless meals and groceries through partnerships with Mystic Valley Elders, GMAC, Bread of Life, YMCA, and veterans organizations. We've partnered with Malden Stockpot, a local business on Pearl Street, to bring 300 meals a week for 10 weeks to Chelsea. It's one of the most hard-hit cities during this crisis, and the food insecurity there I've seen personally, and it is staggering. We've grabbed prescriptions for folks. We've helped connect renters to City Life and moms who need diapers to ABC. We've procured blue bags so that our neighbors don't have to go from store to store looking for an important item. Thanks to our mask making mavens, we have constructed over 1,500 cloth masks and distributed them to our neighbors. We donated N95 masks to our frontline CHA workers who are currently out there testing our residents on Canal Street. We've joined forces with other cities and towns across the state to support and build a network of mutual aid groups to find assistance and resources, especially in towns and cities that don't have them. We have benefited from our volunteers' generosity of time and money to help those in our town who need anything from toiletries to a friendly voice to check in on them. My ask tonight of viewers is simple. Do you have a pantry full of extra cans? Bought too many paper towels or TP? Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors would love anything from a in-kind donation of cleaners, paper goods, and non-perishable items. Now that things are starting to loosen up and our future is unclear, many of us are returning to work while some of us are still unemployed. Our group's efforts to fundraise are limited. Our fear is that the economic impact has not yet been fully realized by all of us, especially after your conversation with the budget. This is the time that I think that we need to shore up our resources for all of those who may be in need right now or could be in need in the following months. For those of us who have made it through with a little extra change in our pockets, it might be time for us to give a little to help those who are desperate to find a way to pay a bill or buy groceries. My big ask of you all is to urge the mayor to enter into partnership with the United Way. The United Way has partnered with municipalities across the Commonwealth. Their name recognition and fundraising power could help us weather whatever the future holds. I ask you tonight to help our neighbors in Malden stay in their homes, feed their families, and most importantly, keep our community unified and intact. Thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions or comments you might have.
Great, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
No question, but a comment.
1 second, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Winslow.
So
there you go.
Yeah, great job by every Malden neighbor helping neighbor. It just sounds like fantastic. And I know I was able to help out a little bit of actually setting up some of the infrastructure to fundraise. How's that going? And would the United Way effort feed into that? So just curious.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry, Steve. I completely forgot you. I apologize. You did help us get physical sponsorship and get us kind of thinking about fundraising and things like that. So I'm so sorry. But right now, we have applied for several grants. We've gotten one substantial grant for $1,000, but just our capacity right now for fundraising is really minimal. Like what we have been doing is, again, thank goodness for the generosity of the kind Maldonians. We've had people who have sponsored families for weeks now, buying them groceries. I myself have, along with a couple of other members, have taken care of, we have a family of 8 who were all COVID positive and didn't have any food in their house. So between the 3 of us, we have been buying groceries for them weekly. We just kind of take turns. What I see in a partnership with the United Way, they have partnered with cities like Brockton and Chelsea to really bring a huge amount of fundraising with their name recognition. they become the manager of that money, and in the partnership with the city, and we would love to join in and help with that, but it's just beyond our capacity right now to actually take that kind of large fundraising and development on. With the partnership with the city, the United Way takes on kind of, here are tips on how to fundraise, and with the city, they've been able to connect with other nonprofits such as ABCD and say Bread of Life, to then get the money that we fundraise to those established nonprofits to either create another rental relief fund, for example, or extra money to buy meals or food for Bread of Life, veteran services. We could really just, the opportunities to fundraise and to find ways to help people stay in their homes, which is honestly one of the biggest concerns and calls we get. People just who have always been able to pay their rent, never been in this kind of situation before, and now they're just afraid they're going to be homeless. I'm really concerned that we're going to lose a lot of our working class and lower income folks that really help make a diverse Malden.
Thanks. So let us know however else we can help out then.
Yeah, again, like I said, if we can just urge Gary and other members of the municipality to step up and kind of maybe take this on as part of that nonprofit that is our fiscal sponsor, it would be, I think, an amazing opportunity and a first big step to really try to shore things up. I understand that the budgets are just going to be bonkers for both the state, federal, state, and city, and you guys can only do so much. And this is another opportunity to try to get some well-needed money into the city to those who need it the most.
Zaida, can you tell us where we can send checks to? Who do they go to and made out to what?
I also forgot to mention that is if you're interested in learning more about us, if you need assistance, if you want to help volunteer, our website is maldenneighbors.org, or we're on Facebook at Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors, or you can call us at 781-428-0789. And right now we are accepting checks to be mailed to the senior center. Karen has been amazing in allowing us to use the senior center as a hub for people to drop off donations, for our volunteers to pick up materials to drop off to families. We've been able to use the fridge there to keep refrigerated meals and kind of emergency food on site when someone calls up and there aren't resources, like Bread of Life isn't serving, or it's a Sunday. We can always stop by the senior center, grab a couple of containers of chicken or rice and pasta, and be able to deliver food within a 24-hour period.
So the checks would be made out to whom?
To Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors.
Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors, care of the Malden, the care of the Markey Senior Center.
The Markey Senior Center, yes.
At 7 Washington Street.
I was going to say it's 7 or 10 Washington Street.
7 Washington Street, Malden. Zaida, you've done a fantastic job, you and the crew, of getting this going, and it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. You kind of epitomize the role of folks grabbing the ball and running with it, and thank you so very, very much for all that you're doing.
Yes, thank you. And again, the most amazing thing about this experience, it's been such a difficult time, and sometimes the stories are heartbreaking, but just being able to connect with other people here in Malden. There's so many new people that are part of our volunteer pool. They've recently moved to Malden in the last year to 3 years, and they just really want to connect with others in the neighborhood. And it's just been such an amazing opportunity to see them working and connecting with other members of our community. It's just, it's such an awful time, but such an amazing experience.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilor Anderson?
All set, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Crowe, you're next.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to the Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors. They really have been, I think, a great resource in getting, some, food and meal delivery to some of our seniors. So I appreciate all the work that they have been doing. I'm actually a little surprised about the request about the United Way tonight. Only because a while ago I had met one of your members had reached out to me just to kind of talk and see if I could help them connect with the United Way, and we did do that with somebody that is my contact at the United Way that I do have worked with for years, and so you got back and forth, and I know that that they knew had met, via Zoom to talk about that. And we, Akola and I had kind of went through what the steps needed to happen. She was going to bring it back to the group. And then we all met. And after that was brought back to the group as well, you did, as you just kind of mentioned, that the bandwidth was not really, there with people who managed kids and everything else. And at that time, I said, I'll just give the mayor the heads up. You were setting up a meeting with the mayor that you were going to be asking. I'm not sure if that meeting ever happened.
It's kind of why we're here, to ask to see if you guys can help us with that.
Well, so the ask never even went to the mayor. So I don't think we need, because I had said they're going to be meeting with you. I had followed up like how that meeting go, and he was like, they never got a call, no meeting. So
interesting.
I kind of, said that about, sort of working with United Way and, what we can and what we need to do. And so actually last week, a week before, I reached out again just to see if anything had shifted. And so knowing that it seemed to be, you didn't have the bandwidth, and they were definitely willing once they understood what the roles and responsibilities were. So actually, Miss Maria Luis in the mayor's office and I said, well, we'll take this on. So we've started the process.
Awesome. Oh, great.
So that's why I said, I don't think it needed to be.
There was clearly a crossing of wires.
To the mayor, he was never even asked. So, when he was asked and understood what the roles are. So we will figure out all the other steps that need to happen. And as she said, the process is very laid out with the United Way, and they are the keepers of the fund. They will seed the fund as well. And then it really is our role once it's seeded and we identify sort of the lead not-for-profits, 501c3s that have the capacity, that do some of the food and bill pay, and that, people that are filling out the applications. It is incumbent upon us to help do some fundraising, and the nonprofit community to actually be the referral and supporting, organizations. So, and as the YWCA, like I said, I don't have the capacity either for that, but I do have the capacity to be a referral and help people get where they need to be to help them access some of those funds. So it is already, it has just started.
The wheels are turning.
The wheels are turning, so no
Excellent.
pressure needed.
Well, you never know until you specifically ask. So
right. So now the request had been asked and answered, very willingly. So, but
right.
thank you for all that we are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Madam President. Zaida, I just want to first of all thank you. You did a tremendous job, not only updating us tonight, but also just being flexible in the date that you came. I know we had gone back and forth a few times, allowed us to have the chief here a little bit more, in a more timely way in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement. So thank you for your flexibility and giving us the ability to bring the chief in first. I wanted to both make a comment and maybe a brief plug for some of the work that you've been doing, and also ask a follow-up question to one thing you mentioned. So I know you had said that you're trying still get the word out. I can tell that you've been doing a tremendous amount of work doing that on social media. I have been fortunate enough to be helping a little bit with Anna and some of the other folks that are leading the Malden Neighbors Group to design a postcard that the city has generously agreed to pay for to go out to every household in the city. So I wanted to just make a plug for that's being printed as we speak. And every home will be getting a postcard about Malden Neighbors that lists the phone number, lists the email and the website. Pivoting from that, I wanted to know if you could tell me a little bit more about how your intake numbers are looking. Do you feel that the need is still great and that you're not reaching people? And can you speak to how you're evaluating that? And then as a second piece of that, can you talk a little bit about how you anticipate needing the senior center moving forward? I've seen firsthand how critical it's been to your ability, as you spoke to store things, get pickup on the weekends, etc. So can you talk a little bit about like that need piece going forward, and also how the facility actually plays into that and how we can support that availability?
Yeah, I mean, we realize that it's a temporary solution, and at some point, the senior center is going to be repopulated. Right now, it has been critical so that we're not, I'm not storing, 1,000 masks behind me and, food in somebody else's fridge and things like that. We are trying to, in the process of working on figuring out where we're going to try to keep food. We have been talking to the YMCA, and they are generously, we're working with CHA to get another meal, another group of meals kind of coming into Malden. So we're hoping that they'll be able to have fridge space for us there. With regards to the mailer, I wasn't 100% sure because technically I'm on vacation this week, but I made some exceptions like I often do when the life of an organizer isn't about actually unplugging ever. But as to what we're doing forward with requests, like as of last week, requests have been kind of slowing down. We're hoping that this mailer really does kind of get outreach to everyone. One of the major challenges that at least I recognize, and it's anecdotal, but everyone is very in their own communities within the community. So, it's been very difficult to do outreach to the Asian community until GMAC stepped up and said, hey, we need help with this component of delivering food, but we have a way to reach our community in Malden. Would you be willing to help us? Reaching out to the mosque, for example, and saying, hey, just so you know, we're available. And now they are also going to be doing meals in their community on Tuesdays. One of the challenges I see, again, is it's unclear who's going to be out of work in 6 months, who's going to be out of work in 6 weeks. I think that, again, once I like to say that we play it every 3 weeks. 3 weeks from now, we're not sure where we'll be. COVID, we could have a COVID spike. We could have a major employer decide to close up shop and have tons of people out of work. This, unfortunately, is the kind of work where you can really only plan every 3 weeks in advance. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're also trying to figure out structurally long-term how we keep this going. We think that it's good to try to connect the different services and community organizations that are already established and already doing this work, and making sure that people are aware of who they are, how to donate, how to funnel funds to them, and just really be kind of our role as a director, just directing people and channeling people to the resources they need, connecting them with the nonprofits who are providing those resources. I hope that explains a little bit of what our thinking is.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. The mutual aid work is kind of built on hoping that, today I'm fine, but tomorrow, and I'm willing to donate money, but tomorrow I might need groceries. I might need help with my rent. And knowing that I have a community who's there to support me. And it's good to hear that the postcards are printing. I wasn't up to date on that.
Yeah, it's a for sure green light, so it should be getting in the mail Friday or Monday.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Zaida and Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Just from my point of view, the importance of this group and this outreach has been resident on every single call that I have made to the seniors, to the senior community. I did not receive one disconnect. It was as if, you know, they were, you could see their hug and their smile through the face, through the phone. And it helped me through COVID. It actually helped me personally. So if I could have someone else, it was really so grateful to do it, and so grateful to all you volunteers that have stepped up late, and it's the way the work is. So thank you, and please send my best regards to all the volunteers at Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors, Ida. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Zaida, for everything you've been doing. I know that it's been a lot of work on your end and a lot of sleepless nights, I'm sure. We talked a bit about the senior center. Can you really explain how, and I know all the volunteers have been really crucial, but can you talk about Karen Cologne-Hayes and how crucial she has been as the Human Services Director? I mean, I just feel like she's really been a huge linchpin when it comes to pulling into her.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the specific origins of our group is someone in Ward 1 wanted to do something, and a family in Ward 3 wanted to do something, and each of them were working independently. And one saw the flyer of another one and they called each other. And AJ knew Amanda and reached out to Amanda, who connected her with Karen Cologne-Hayes, who calls me up and says, I really think this group needs your help. You're a great organizer. And these people are new to Malden. They don't know many people here. Our organizer, James, I believe is bought a home maybe 2 years ago. And I believe AJ and Mira have also just recently in the last 2 to 3 years moved here. And they really need your help organizing and kind of giving them an overview of how the city is and what the wards are. And, you know, if it weren't for Karen, I wouldn't be doing this work. I'm sure I'd be doing it in some other capacity, but not here in Malden. I think that Karen has, again, really, as I said earlier, helped us problem solve every little project we have tried to figure out. Again, outreach is such the issue. And Karen has, again, giving us just introductions to GMAC or to Bread of Life, or reaching out to Deb Armeralt at YMCA to ask if we can use her fridge for larger storage things. It's literally just anything from big picture things to like, hey, I have this family whose daughter is sick and needs food, and Karen would just jump into her car and drive food over because we didn't have a volunteer at 7 o'clock at night. So and the graciousness of allowing us to, you know, limitedly, obviously because of COVID, but using just the kitchen and part of an office so that we could print up flyers, you know, coordinate with volunteers to pick up masks and drop off masks or cleaning supplies. It's just been countless. And if she had not been here and been the community liaison, I don't think we would have accomplished as much as we have in the last, and I'm astounded it's been 3 months, but in the last 3 months, we would not have been able to do a third of the things that we've accomplished so far.
Thank you for that. I think you really hit the nail on the head. You know, sometimes when tough budgets come around, people, you know, don't appreciate the human services and the community connection and the actual activism that it takes to really build a community. And if it wasn't for the fact that we have this community human services position, we would be lost. And I just really think it's important to bat that home. You know, the senior center, while it may not be open to seniors currently, it's been open and it's been working, and it's been a very valuable building to get us through this pandemic. So thank you to you and all the organizers, especially, like I said, Karen, for helping bring it together. Thank you.
I'll make sure everybody hears that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor O'Malley. Counselor Kamel.
Zada, you've been doing some work. So I want to thank you on a personal level. I know you're doing this, and you're doing many other things in our community that need to be done, and you're right there in front of all of them. So really thank you on a personal level, and thank you to the organization for all you're doing. Councilor Anderson took my question in terms of how do we donate, but I did go to the website, and I just want to repeat the MaldenNeighbors.org. And there you can sign up, and you can also, there is a donate button there if you want to.
There is.
A lot of folks out there might be looking for ways to get involved, and if that's the way you want to do it, hopefully that will be something that folks can help out with. So thank you to you all, and we're all going to do what we can to support you and to support each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Kamel. I don't see any other hands up. Did anybody put their hand up that I haven't seen? Okay. I don't see any other hands up. So thank you, Zaida, so much for coming.
Thank you.
And updating us on Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors. It's been nice to see all the great work that you guys have been doing all over social media. It's truly appreciated, and hopefully we can continue to get things going and do a lot more good, because I don't think this is over quite yet. So
not at all. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time.
Have a nice night.
You too. Thanks.
City Clerk, next order of business.
Approval of the minutes, paper 163-20, minutes of the meeting of June 2nd, and paper 164-20, meeting of the minutes of June 9th.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Condon. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Oh.
He's on mute.
Anderson, yes.
Kamel.
Did we? Oh, he's there.
He's still muted.
Mel, yes.
Kamel. Condon.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria.
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Next order of business.
Would you like me to do the appointments that confirmation is required first for the ones placed on file?
Yes, because those are all going to committee.
Okay, right. Okay, so paper 165-20, mayoral appointment, Matthew Byrne, 80 Cross Street, Malden, as a member of the Conservation Commission, said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire on October 1st, 2021. Matt will replace Peter Santangelo, who resigned, confirmation required. Paper 166-20, mayoral appointment, Kirk Jamuski, 569 Fellsway East, Malden, as a member of the Conservation Commission. Said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire on February 13, 2021. Kirk will fulfill the unexpired term of Brian Creamer, who moved out of the city. Confirmation required. Paper 167-20, mayoral reappointment, Mark Lawhorn, 472 Highland Ave, Malden, as a member of the Malden Housing Authority Board. Said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire May 1st, 2025. Confirmation required. Paper 168-20, mayoral reappointment, Lee Kinnon, 269 Clifton Street, Malden, to the License Board. Said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire June 1st, 2026. Paper 169-20, mayoral reappointment, John P. King, 67 Upham Street, Malden, as a member of the Board of Appeal. Said term to commence upon confirmation by the City Council and to expire on May 1st, 2023. Paper 170-20, mayoral reappointment, Robert Foley, 95 Bell Rock Street, Malden, as a member of the Malden Redevelopment Authority Board. said term to commence upon its confirmation by the city council and to expire May 1st, 2025.
Great.
Motion to refer to personnel and appointments.
Councilor Crow's motion to refer these matters to personnel and appointments. Clerk will call the roll.
Wait a second.
Before we call the roll on that, may I comment on it?
Sure.
Just to the chair, do we want to send these? I mean, these are all people that we're familiar with. Why can't we just pass them on the floor if there's no unreadiness on any of these appointments? I would suggest that we're all here. We all know these people. If there are questions that need to be raised, we could send them to the committee. But otherwise, I would think it would be efficient for us to pass them right here on the floor.
And, if you mind, President, actually in committee, we had decided that we were not bringing in all the reappointments, but we would be meeting with the new appointments. So there are a couple of new appointments. So I think the ones that are reappointments, the Mark Lawhorn, the Lee Kinnon, John King, and Robert Foley, we might want to really just put those are reappointments. The two new people to the Conservation Commission, a new appointment. So maybe we'll bring those in next week when we bring in Emily Keith.
So I guess I raised it because originally it sounded like we were sending all of these to the appointments committee. And I think we ought to be pulling.
Good point. City Clerk, do you want to do these? We'll do the first two separately, then the one, two, the four. So we can send the first two papers 16520 and 16620 to on Councilor Crow's motion to refer these matters to personnel and appointments. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Kamel.
Kamel, yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes. So then we're gonna need to suspend docket rules. Councilor Crowe?
Yep.
Do we need to suspend docket rules?
We do.
We do, yes.
Okay, so I make a motion to suspend docket rules
Okay.
for the
I would
purpose
second that.
of Mark Lawhorn to the Housing Authority Board, Lee Kinnon to the Liquor Board, John Smith to the Board, Robert Foley to the Malden Redevelopment Authority Board.
Okay. On Councilor Crow's motion, seconded by Councilor Condon to suspend docket rules, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Kamel.
Kamel, yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Great.
Motion that Mark
So that,
Kinnon,
Madam President, that sounded like we just voted to suspend docket rules.
That's
I
all
would-
that we did. Councilor Crow's
would-
making a motion to, yep, okay.
I took your lead, Councilor Anderson. I know where you were going. So I make a motion to reappoint Mark Lawhorn to the Housing Authority, Lee Kinnon to the Liquor Board, John King to the Board of Appeals, and Robert Foley to the Redevelopment
I
Authority.
would second that.
Okay, on Councilor Crow's motion to confirm these appointments, seconded by Councilor Condon, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Kamel.
Kamel, yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow.
Oh, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Great. Next order of business. Want to do
Papers
all
one-
these together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Paper 171-20, mayoral appointment, Justin Quinn, 77 Rockingham Ave, Malden, as a member of the Mystic Valley Development Commission, place on file. Mayor reappointment, Stacy Van Devere, 6 Lebanon Terrace, Malden, to the Commission of Energy Efficiency, said term to expire on May 4th, 2022, placed on file. Mayoral reappointment, Joshua Ward Smith, 44 Greystone Road, Malden, as a member of the Commission of Energy Efficiency, said term to expire on May 4th, 2022, placed on file. Paper 174-20, mayoral reappointment, Allison Pardek, 15 Wynn Terrace, Malden, as an associate member to the Commission on Energy Efficiency, said term to expire on April 11, 2022, placed on file.
On Councilor Crow's motion to place these appointments on file. Got a second?
I'll say it's better. Oh.
Councilor Anderson seconded. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
carries 11-0.
Great. Next order of business.
There's a whole bunch of licenses.
They're all getting referred to committee, correct?
No, I don't believe
No.
that.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you. Yes, we do have a series of licenses here, some of which I'd like to pass on the floor, and
Okay.
some which I would like to actually ask the counselors' opinion as to what they would like to do.
Okay.
If the clerk would read the first petition, which is for a self-service gas station. This is something that if the council agrees, it's a renewal with no problems, that we would like to pass on the floor. So I don't know if we want to suspend docket rules for everything so we can talk about it all at once without having to do it item by item, and then make a decision as we move through the process.
Sure. City Solicitor Fallon, we can suspend docket rules for all of them at once, correct? Instead of doing them all individually? There you are.
Yes, that would be, that's fine, and then you're gonna address each and every one of them to decide. what-
Individually.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
okay.
fine.
So on Councilor Murphy's motion, do we have a second?
Condon,
Councilor Anderson.
O'Malley? You have a question? Hold on, Councilor O'Malley. Go ahead, Councilor O'Malley.
I was just going to ask if we could just refer Gibbs to committee, just because I'm having an issue with them again. If you could, thank you.
If I may, through the chair.
Go ahead.
Councilor O'Malley, I think once we suspend docket rules, if anyone has an issue with any license, we certainly will refer it to committee. So it's just to kind of actually discuss, just be able to discuss them, to decide, can we do them on the floor or should we refer them to committee?
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome. So on Councilor Murphy's motion to suspend docket rules, seconded by Councilor Condon, I think it was.
yes.
The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Mel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
carries 11-0.
So if, Mr. Clerk, if you wouldn't mind, if you read the first one, the petition of a self-service gas station for Gibbs, we'll take them.
Yep.
We'll take each section separately by type.
Okay, paper 175-20, petition self-service gas station Gibbs Oil Company LP, 728 Main Street. It's a renewal.
Councilor Murphy for the committee.
Well, actually, it's not for the, well, I guess it's not even for the committee because these haven't been in committee. So basically, yeah, I just heard Councilor O'Malley. I plan to have a license committee meeting next week. So what we put on the docket tonight was any license that was a renewal that had paid that we did not have an issue with. So if someone knows of an issue, we certainly can refer it to committee to speak to it further. I have no problem with doing that. I intend to have a license committee meeting next week. We obviously only have a couple more meetings. We do need to address these before we recess for the summer. So Councilor O'Malley, I heard you loud and clear. You would like this one to be referred to committee. Is that correct?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd make a motion to refer give oil to committee.
Seconded.
On the motion? On the motion?
Yep.
Yes.
Can I suggest to the council from Ward 4 that during this interim time that you speak to the self-service gas station people, work out your issues. So let's not wait until it comes before the committee. You know, you can get to them now knowing that it's going to come before the committee. So that's, we want to use the most, best use of our time between then and now.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilor Murphy's motion to refer this paper to committee, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Well, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Tika.
Tika, yes.
Papers referred to committee 11-0.
Okay. Councilor Murphy, how would you like to do the rest?
I'd like to do the 2 lodging houses next, and then I'd like to speak to something that I have, an email that I have on them. So
Okay, okay. So, city clerk, go ahead.
Paper 176-20, petition Lodging House Lawrence W. French, 98 Laurel Street, Malden. It's a renewal. And paper 177-20, petition Lodging House BREC LHYP LLC, 155 Clifton Street, Malden. It's a renewal.
Councilor
to the full council, I originally was going to ask that these be referred to council because normally with lodging houses, we look for police reports to see if there's been any issues in the neighborhood. However, I do have an email from our compliance officers that basically says that for both the lodging houses and secondhand dealers, pawnbrokers, the police state there are no police reports on file for the last year. So I would look to the 2 counselors who represent 98 Laurel Street and 155 Clifton Street to make the decision whether or not they would like to pass these on the floor tonight or they would like to refer them for further discussion to the committee next week.
Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, I'd like to pass on the floor tonight for the Laurel Street.
I'm sorry, you'd like to pass it?
Yes.
Yes.
On the floor.
Okay. And I believe Clifton Street is Councilor Linehan.
Yeah, I think so. I have no outstanding issues. I haven't heard anything about the property. I'm fine to pass it on the floor as well.
Okay.
Great.
So I would make a motion that we pass lodging house for Lawrence French, 98 Laurel Street, and lodging house BREMC LHYP LLC for 155 Clifton Street.
Second.
On Councilor Murphy's motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson to pass these petitions favorably on the floor tonight, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Maria,
Maria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Tika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
All right, next order of business.
Okay, so there's a bunch of pool tables.
Are you good with taking those up all together, Councilor Murphy?
I am.
Okay,
It's paper 178-20, petition pool table Irish American, 177 West Street, Malden. 2 tables, it's a renewal. Paper 179-20, petition pool table Moose Lodge, 562 Broadway, 2 tables, it's a renewal. Paper 180-20, petition pool table Club 24 Inc., 787 Salem Street, Malden, 2 tables, it's a renewal. Paper 181-20, petition pool table AOH Division 12, 259 Charles Street, 1 table, it's a renewal. And paper 182-20, petition pool table ITAMS Post 1640 Oakland Street, Malden, 1 table, it's a renewal.
Yes, I'd like to ask the council to pass these petitions on the floor this evening. Once again, I have confirmation from the compliance officers that there are no issues with these renewals.
Second.
On Councilor Murphy's motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson to pass these petitions on the floor this evening, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Maria,
Maria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Great. Next order of business.
There is 6 outdoor parking lots. I'll read them.
Are we good to take all those up together?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Paper 183-20, petition outdoor parking lot TJ Automotive, 315 Pleasant Street, 28 spaces, it's a renewal. Paper 184-20, outdoor parking lot Robert McNulty, 28 Cedar Street, Malden, 14 spaces, it's a renewal. Paper 185-20, outdoor parking lot Motel Realty Company, Inc., 735 Broadway, 19 spaces, it's a renewal. Paper 186-20, outdoor parking lot Cape Court Realty LLC, 17 Green Street, Malden, 25 spaces, it's a renewal. Paper 187-20, outdoor parking Andrea Sisto, 29 Madison Street, 40 spaces, it's a renewal. And paper 188-20, outdoor parking Andrea Sisto, 25 Florence Street, 34 spaces, it's a renewal.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. Once again, unless a counselor has an issue with one of these outdoor parking lots that are in their ward, I would ask that we pass these on the floor. I have confirmation from the compliance officers, once again, that they have no issues. There are no known compliance issues with any of the renewals for outdoor parking.
Second.
Councilor Spatafora, did you have a question?
I do. Councilor Murphy, are you the chairwoman?
Yes.
Are these all the open parking spots in the city? Or are these just partial?
This is just partial. We have a number of other licenses that need to come. These were ones that the applications are in, the fees have been paid, and we wanted to just kind of move these forward.
Thank you. I only asked, not to be cryptic. I know we were having a problem with one individual parking lot not willing to, I believe we were in court. I don't want to say the names and I just forget the outcome of that one. I just wanted to know if that was coming later or we just overstepped that one on purpose. So that's all I had.
Yeah. So
thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So no, we had a motion from Councilor Murphy,
yes, a motion to grant these petitions.
seconded by Councilor Anderson again.
Correct.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Great. Next order of business.
We had
Two secondhand deals, which I would like to take together also.
paper 189-20, secondhand deal of pawnbroker GameStop, number 6263, 44 Broadway. It's a renewal. Paper 190-20, secondhand deal of pawnbroker Gold and Diamonds, 27-29 Pleasant Street, Malden. It's a renewal. And paper 91-20, secondhand deal of pawnbroker AC Loan Company, 56 Pleasant Street, Malden, renewal.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. Once again, secondhand dealers is something that we normally talk about in committee. However, I do have confirmation from the compliance officers that there are no issues with the police department for, any reports that they've filed or anything else. So, if a counselor has an issue with one of these in their ward, certainly we can refer it to next week's license meeting. But if you don't, then I would suggest that we pass them on the floor. I would request that we pass the petitions on the floor this evening.
Second.
Councilor Murphy's motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson to pass these petitions on the floor. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Camilla, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Pro,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Next order of business.
Paper 192-20, order that rules and ordinance discuss updating sign control section 12.24 of the rules and ordinances of 2020.
Councilor Spatafora for the paper.
I'm sorry. I'm just getting my bearings here. Give me 1 second. I just gotta remember the paper now.
Sign control.
Yep. So this is going to be referred to ordinance. Sorry about that. I know I got a bunch of papers. This is just going to be referred to ordinance. This is standard. It's a living document. We've always talked about making it easier to do business. There are a couple things, like any ordinances, that we either overlooked or forgot, or at least certain cases allowing signs to increase in certain zones. So we're just asking this to go to sign design review. Ordinance committee to take a look at it. And make some, I think, just annual changes based on new technology, new buildings, etc. Council Murphy, you want to add anything?
Yes, I guess, thank you, Councilor Spatafora, for offering me the moment to say this. I think this is very poignant to get this done before we recess for this summer. What we're really looking at is issues that have come to us as a sign design committee that have forced us to refer people to the Board of Appeals, that we as a sign design group felt that we need to change the ordinance because we were putting excess burden on our businesses. Some of it has to do with size of buildings, locations of buildings, et cetera. So there's 3 or 4 different things that have to do, as I say, with the size of buildings, shopping centers, et cetera, that I think will clean up the living document, as Councilor Spatafora said, to make it embrace the business community we're trying to bring into our city. So
and I just want to add a couple things. For example, is we had a number of this is not limiting signs before anybody concerns that. Like one example is we had a certain number of accessory signs. And then when McDonald's came, when they updated it, I don't know if it's Council Seeker's ward or Council Anderson's ward there, on the Everett, the Malden Everett line there, they had 2 drive-throughs and they used TVs for their digital boards. So we had a number of signs. You could have accessory signs, and they had to go to the Board of Appeals to get those additional signs. So now we made it where it's per drive-through, not per location. As we realize, especially with COVID, you might see more drive-throughs flourish. So it's not restricting it. It's actually just allowing things to happen in a controlled manner.
Exactly. And if you look at like something like Vienna Storage, the way the sign design ordinance was written, their sign looked like a postage stamp on an envelope. So, we wanted to kind of, look at situations that we knew as a body, we would love to approve, but we couldn't. We had to send them to Board of Appeals and kind of rectify that. So I think everybody will be happy with some of the decisions, or what we're sending down to rules and ordinance to have changed.
Great, thank you. Councilor O'Malley, you have your hand up.
I was just looking in the paper. I can't find any of the language. Do you guys have the language that you can share, or maybe the clerk has the language?
Yep,
sure.
We can share with you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so on Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer this matter to Rules and Ordinance, do we have a second by Councilor Murphy?
I'll second that.
Yes, you do. I just couldn't unmute.
The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Trammell,
Mel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
carries 11-0.
Next order of business.
Paper 193-20, resolved that the city council provided a letter of support to the Leventhal Prize team to be included with the application for municipal vulnerability preparedness action grant, which I do have the letter. Would you like me to read it?
Councilor Murphy for the paper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And City Clerk, if you would read, actually, as we all know, we were the recipient of the Leventhal Prize, which has resulted in us coming up with a wonderful design plan for the DPW site, which is the only publicly held piece of property that we have on the Malden River. This is a grant that actually, if we were able to get it, would help us actually do some of the construction and move to the next level or phase 2. So if I would ask that the clerk read it, it is just the city council's support of the city of Malden, going forward and asking or submitting this grant. So clerk, if you wouldn't mind reading the letter.
Sure. To the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Jury. Wow, it's a mouthful. The Malden City Council writes to wholeheartedly endorse the Malden Works for Waterfront Equity and Resilience submission by the City of Malden in pursuit of the MVP Action Grant. The Malden River is the city's most underappreciated natural resource, with decades of industrial activity walling off the river from its surrounding neighborhoods. Seeking to increase access and support environmental justice efforts, 4 years ago, the City Council formed the Waterfront Access Committee to ensure that every resident can enjoy access to the river. The Department of Public Works, the only publicly owned parcel along the river, is a crucial piece of our revitalization plan. Last year, we were a recipient of the MIT Leventhal Prize. The grant allowed us to begin an equitable open space design process and product that integrated the diverse community needs and resiliency efforts. After 3 public meetings and much work by the team, the final design achieved unprecedented public access to the river while showcasing to neighboring property owners the power and possibility of this environmental treasure. Thanks to the efforts of Malden residents and community groups and the actions we have taken in conjunction with the mayor's office, public interest in activating the river for recreational use and the understanding of the need for climate resiliency is at an all-time high. The entire Malden Council is proud to support the coalition of Malden residents, community leaders, and city officials that have embarked on this journey. We urge you to consider the submission favorably. Signed, J. Sika, Ward 8 Council, City Council President, and Barbara Murphy, Ward 5 City Council, Waterfront Access Committee Chair.
And I would just like to say to the City Council, the last time we did a letter like this for the MIT Leventhal grant, we all signed our names to it, but due to Zoom, it was very difficult to get to each and every one of you, which is why it just has J. Dean's name and my name on it. But it is from all of us. And I wanted you to all hear that and agree to have it sent, which is why it's on the docket this evening.
Okay, is that a motion, Councilor Murphy?
It is a motion to pass this resolve.
Second.
Seconded, who said second?
Crow.
Crow, sorry, thank you. Okay, on Councilor Murphy's motion to pass, seconded by Councilor Crow, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Trammell,
Mel, yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Yes.
carries 11-0.
Next order of business.
Paper 194-20, order that the Personnel Appointment Committee interview and make recommendations to fill in the vacancy on the Community Preservation Committee. Council Crowe intends to move that the Personnel Appointment Committee be discharged from further consideration of this matter.
Councilor Crowe.
So I make a motion that we suspend council rules for the purposes of
Second.
this paper from personnel and appointments.
Second.
Councilor Crowe, you broke up on me. I didn't hear everything that you said. Can you just repeat that for me, please?
Suspend council rules for the purposes of discharging this paper from committee.
Okay.
Second.
On Councilor Crow's motion, seconded by Councilor Condon, to discharge this paper from committee, the clerk will, to suspend docket rules to discharge this paper. The clerk will call the roll. My
Anderson.
apologies.
Anderson, yes.
Kamel.
Kamel, yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Carries 11-0.
Councilor Crowe.
So as we all know, this has been sort of a long and winding road. And the Personnel and Appointments Committee met to conduct interviews. And a few weeks ago, we met with Monique Ching. And we had set up another interview with Mr. Shannon Robbins. And we had that meeting set up for last week, and anyone that was watching. Unfortunately, the interview never took place. And subsequently, it came to my attention that Mr. Robbins had recently moved out of the city, although he did indicate that he would like to move back, but he's not done that yet, and making his application invalid. So, however, the applicant who did interview is immensely qualified, and at that Personnel and Appointments meeting, pretty much every council, if not every councilor, was there, attended the on or off committee, asked questions, and resoundingly commented on how impressed they were with her qualifications. Really, for anybody in the public that wasn't at that meeting, let me tell you a little bit about Ms. Ching. She holds a master's in urban and environmental planning and policy from Tufts University, with in water systems, science, and society. She has a BA in public and media communications from Howard Payne University. She's a policy analyst at the Mass Budget and Policy Center. She has a whole wealth of been a fellow with a lot of board work and volunteer work, and she did some local government reporting. Her skills include, technology and communication and linguistic skills. And for those reasons, actually, I think, like I said, she's immensely qualified. We're really lucky to have somebody, again, stepping up in the city of Malden, who want to be appointed to the CPC. And I make a motion. Although the committee did not vote to recommend her appointment, I personally make a motion on behalf of myself, and just being impressed with all of her accomplishments, make a motion to approve her appointment as the 9th member of the Community Preservation Committee.
I would second that.
Great. I got a couple of hands up, so hold on, please. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I am in support of this nomination, and I think it's purely because of Monique's qualifications, as you stated. But I will say, I am very disappointed in how this process has played out. We are now left with one option for a CPC candidate, and we're lucky that that candidate is very qualified. But in the future, we need to make sure that the application process is done in a timely manner, and we really get this notice out to all of our residents so everyone has a chance to serve on this really great committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Winslow. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I did view the Personnel and Appointments Committee with Mandy Shane came in, and I know her personally. She's a very impressive candidate. I know she's been involved in a lot of community meetings, so I think that's good. And I think she'll bring a lot to the process. I love Shannon Robbins as well, so I wish him luck, and I hope he comes back to Malden, because I know he's been a big help sometimes down at Trafton on 4th of July, and maybe when we can actually have 4th of July, maybe we'll be back in Malden by then. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Condon, you're next.
Yes, I'd just like to support Chairman of Appointments. She's an outstanding candidate and very diverse, very intelligent. I think she'll be a big asset to the CPC. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, Councilor, oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilor Crowe.
Councilor Condon was saying I was outstanding, but apparently that wasn't true. Anyway.
May I comment?
And
Go ahead, Anderson.
So I'll yield to Councilor Anderson.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done, Councilor Crowe. You keep breaking up on me for some reason. Is anybody else hearing her that way, or is it just me?
No, she's breaking up.
Okay,
Sorry.
we have a bad connection with you this evening. Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Yeah, so my comments about this is obviously the candidate that we have being recommended before us is a very well qualified candidate, and I'm sure would do an excellent job. When asked about discharging that person and only recommending that candidate for the one open position, I wasn't willing to support that idea. If there were others on the city council that want, originally the request was to open it up and announce it so others could apply. If there was a willingness on the part of councilors to do that, then I would think that we ought to be looking at other candidates as well. But if there's no appetite for that, I'm certainly willing to support this one candidate. I think is very, very good. But since that was the discussion early on, I think we certainly should have looked at the two candidates that had been in the queue, and I supported that. But if there were other candidates that were kind of standing by, I would have preferred that we take a look at those as well. But since there doesn't seem to be an appetite for that, I'm glad to support the candidate that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you. Like I said, to Council O'Malley's point, and believe me, it was done as timely as it could be under the circumstances that we were faced with. I do agree, which is why I've said before, kind of looking at that and how the appointments do happen is much welcomed, and I wish this had happened months and months ago. And really to Councilor Anderson's, I agree that we want to get the most amount of attendance that we can all areas of our community. And if Ms. Ching was not as qualified or just kind of qualified, I would have been, really very willing to say, let's stop this process and open it back up there. But again, because of her qualifications and what she can bring to the CPC, that's why I said I'd make a motion to appoint her.
And that's second.
Councilor Crow's motion to appoint Monique Chin, seconded by Councilor Condon. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Vicky, yes.
carries 11-0.
Next order of business.
Under committee reports, paper 195-20, committee report, rules and ordinance, paper 131-20, order. Be it hereby ordained by the Malden City Council that the revised ordinances of 2020 be amended as follows. Number one, by striking out section 2.12.160 as it currently exists and inserting in place thereof the following new section 2.1 to 2.160.
Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Kamala, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
I apologize. What committee report was this?
It's the
Ordinance
paper
for parking.
195-20, paper 131
Yes. Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Speaker, yes.
carries 11-0.
Committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
Thank you, Madam President, and hopefully everybody, this was done last meeting. This is the 5 changes we made to the ordinance to update. I don't want to say correct, but update the ordinance for the parking department. There are some terms in there. There's a creation of it, better definement of it, responsibility, creating the terms of the parking director, matching the ordinances for the officers in the, I use the term officers, but parking people, parking director, parking supervisor, as well as allowing the mayor to appoint and the council to confirm. Any questions? Happy to discuss, but it is a cleanup of the ordinance. It's really already happening. We were going to wait to we were going to try to coincide this with the charter change, and given, I think, the potential delay, not saying it's going to happen, but potential delay, the parking clerk, who's also on the ordinance committee, also on the committee to review the charter, asked me to put this forth sooner than later, but happy to take up any questions, comments, concerns.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Okay, on Councilor Spatafora's motion, did you make a motion, Councilor Spatafora, to enroll?
I'll make the motion to enroll.
Seconded by
Crow.
Councilor Crowe. Okay, on Councilor Spatafora's motion to enroll this ordinance, seconded by Councilor Crowe, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Kamala, yes.
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Yes.
Sika,
Speaker, yes.
carries 11-0 to enroll.
The paper is enrolled. Next order of business.
Paper 196-20, committee report, personnel appointment, number 70, paper 72-20, mayoral reappointment, Anthony Rodriguez, 100 Tremont Street, Malden, as Director of Information Technology, said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire March 1st, 2023. You want me to read all 4?
No, motion to receive the committee report.
Okay.
On Councilor Crow's motion to receive the committee report, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Kamala, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Speaker, yes.
Report is received 11-0.
Councilor Crowe for the committee.
Thank you. And clerk, we probably should have just read them all at the same time. But so last week we actually did meet with Anthony Rodriguez, our IT director, and because there was really a lot of questions about especially Zoom meetings and how the new SIG cost, and really how technology has to evolve to kind of meet the needs of everything that's happening in the city, in the country, and in the world. I think we had, most counselors were there. We had a lot of attendees as well, I believe. And so we just really had a wonderful conversation. And I do believe every counselor got their questions asked and answered. And we all sort of agree that he is doing a tremendous amount of work and making sure that that all of our IT needs are met with a very small staff, but still making it happen. So we're making, on behalf of the committee, make a motion that we approve the reappointment of Anthony Rodriguez as our Information Technologies Director.
Second that.
On Councilor Crow's motion to appoint Anthony Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Condon, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Mel,
Mel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DiMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Appointment is confirmed, 11-0.
The appointment has been confirmed. Next order of business. Councilor Crowe, do you want the clerk to read these next three together?
Please.
Okay, we got paper 197-20, personnel appointment, paper 90-20, mayoral reappointment, Diego Baracelli, 33 Glen Street, Malden, be confirmed as a member of the Public Works Commission, said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire March 1st, 2023. Paper 198-20, personnel appointment, paper 53-20, mayoral reappointment of Paul Buckley, 115 Emerald Street, Malden, be confirmed as a member of the Conservation Commission, said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire October 1st, 2021. Paper 199-20, committee report, personnel appointments, paper 75-20, mayoral reappointment, Salvatore Genetti, 307 Pearl Street, Malden, as the police commissioner, said term to commence upon confirmation by the City Council and to expire on March 1st, 2023.
On Councilor Crow's motion to receive the committee report, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Mel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DiMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
I'm gonna abstain because I think these are not properly on the docket.
Spatafora. Spatafora,
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Committee reports received, 10-0.
Excuse me, the committee report has been received. Councilor Crowe for the committee.
So last week when we met, as we did this evening, we've decided, the committee decided not to bring in these reappointments because we've seen them. We know who they are and they are reappointments, and we would move forward with interviewing new appointments or people that we have not, seen that often. They might be new to their board or commission. So the committee decided, we made a motion was that we would refer these out favorably. And so we'll make a motion to reconfirm Diego Baracelli to the Public Works Commission, Paul Buckley to the Conservation Commission, and Salvatore Genetti as our police commissioner.
Second.
Great. Thank you. Hold on. Councilor O'Malley, you have your hand up.
So I'm not going to hold up the appointments. I just wanted to make, because they weren't on the docket they weren't on your agenda last week. So they're not technically committee reports. It would more be in line with what you guys did for 194-20, which was to discharge it from committee. Like I said, I'm not going to hold it up. I just think that there's a difference there. But I am in support of the renominations.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Crowe, are you good? Okay. Councilor Crow's motion seconded by, was it Councilor Condon?
Anderson.
Yes. Anderson.
To confirm these reappointments, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes, sorry. Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Sika,
Yes.
carries 11-0.
Next order of business.
Docket is clear.
The docket is clear. Councilor Winslow has his hand up for personal privilege, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Councilor
yes.
Winslow, you're the first one.
Well, it's Father's Day coming up, so I want to wish all the fathers out there a happy and healthy Father's Day. And I don't know if you're going to be able to do the backyard barbecue like you might usually or do something, but I hope everybody gets a chance to be with their kids and that. And this was actually going to be, Friday was going to be the city's celebration of Elijah Converse 100th birthday. So I just want to acknowledge that. His birthday is actually in July, but it's one of the things that we're going to miss out on because of COVID-19. So maybe we're going to have to celebrate his 101st. I'm sure Dora at the library will be very happy to do that. But one of those things, we're going to have a double set of events next year because of things that have been delayed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy. Yeah, still muted.
I'm just trying to unmute it. Well, I actually wanted to wish all the fathers out there a very happy Father's Day this Sunday. I hope they have a wonderful time with their families. And just following along on the 100th theme, Wood 5 had two 100 centurions on the same street last weekend, non-related, not twins or siblings at all. So it's amazing that Malden does have folks who live to 100. And I heard recently, and Councilor Anderson, you'll be interested in this. Mrs. Knight is going to be 100 on June 26th.
Is she?
She is.
Phyllis Knight.
So we are planning something for her. We had a great party, which the pictures will hopefully be in the Advocate this week, up on Division Street with Marjorie Crocker and Nesca Bethel, and would like to do something with Mrs. Knight. So I was going to give you a call and let you know that was happening.
Please do.
Yeah, Kathy McMullen called me to tell me that she was somebody who was very instrumental at the Daniel School and did a lot with the children, and she's still in her homestead. So hopefully your old stomping ground, your old home area. So centurions are alive and well in Malden. So must be something good in the water beside lead. So anyway, I know. Anyway, just on that note, happy Father's Day to everybody and happy birthday to everybody who's celebrating a birthday.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor O'Malley, you're next.
Thank you, Council President. Just to notify the council, I had scheduled a public properties meeting for 8 o'clock. And then subsequently found out that was scheduled too late for our rules. It's a little time sensitive, but I understand if the council doesn't want to have the meeting. It was to discuss MassDOT funding that could help our community create shared streets and spaces to support public health, safe mobility, and renewed commerce. Primarily, it would give businesses in the city the ability to expand some of our sidewalks to allow more patio space for socially distanced commerce. Some of our businesses, particularly on Pleasant Street, really need this right now. If the council doesn't want to suspend the rules, which is completely understandable, you just reschedule it for next Tuesday. But I figured I'd let you all know that if we wanted to do it, we'd have to suspend the rules.
Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to both offer a brief congratulations to a Ward 3 resident. She happens to also be a work colleague of mine, but Carolina Prieto was recently named one of Boston's Spark Impact Award winners, which is a very prestigious regional award. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to her. And then I also wanted to give a quick plug, since we won't have another full council meeting before this event takes place. My counterpart, Jen Spatafora, on the school committee in Ward 3, is going to be joining me to co-sponsor a Zoom panel on June 29th on mental health for families in the time of COVID and Black Lives Matter. So I'll have an invitation and more information coming out about that soon, but just wanted to give it a brief plug. It's going to be again on the 29th in the evening, and more information will be coming soon.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have?
Yes,
Councilor Anderson.
thank you. On this coming Friday, June 19th, will be an annual celebration of what is called Juneteenth celebration. Juneteenth, as you all may have learned of last year, was first celebrated here in Malden for the first year. And it's a celebration of when the African slaves were notified down in Galveston, Texas, that the emancipation had been signed and they were free. It's a celebration of our freedom from captivity on American soil. Malden has an annual celebration that'll also be taking place on the 19th, and it's called Juneteenth celebration, June 19th. I also want to comment that last Friday, we witnessed on television another murdering of another Black man by the police in that Atlanta, Georgia community. We are fortunate here in Malden, as we've not had a police discharging its firearm for what was the chief say? Since
8 years.
for 8 years. And our community is, I believe, a welcoming community. We're fortunate. We hope to keep it that way. But certainly, we've all seen, what's going on around not only the country but around the world. These protests about this brutalization that is now. It's nothing new to us Black people of seeing this, but the brutalization of Black people by the police that is now being so visibly shown. Because everyone has a cell phone with a camera on it that we're seeing it. So because it's being shown, I think we're talking about it now, and I hope that we can move from talk to action to be able to resolve these issues of this hatred and this hatred toward Blacks that has been so endemic in our system and our society that has caused so many other problems for Black people and brown people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Anyone else? Councilor Linehan, do you have your hand up again?
I'm sorry, I raised it because I wanted to ask a question. Do we need a motion to take up Ryan's question earlier if we want to move into public property, since I think we're staying on the same Zoom line? If we do, I'm happy to make a motion to continue to have the meeting if others are wanting to make a vote.
Okay.
I'll
Councilor
second.
O'Malley, did you have a motion that you wanted to make?
I'll second Councilor Linehan's motion.
Yeah, I'm fine with meeting as well. So, go ahead, I'm fine.
So we're going to make a motion for you to suspend council rules to have this meeting? Is that what the motion's for?
I guess so, yeah.
Councilor O'Malley?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, on Councilor O'Malley's motion to suspend docket rules, seconded by Councilor Linehan, the clerk will call the roll.
Actually, it's reversed. I think Council Linehan made the motion.
Oh,
Council O'Malley seconded the
okay,
motion.
Councilor, I apologize. Councilor Linehan, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Crowe, are you looking to speak?
Yes, I have a question. Actually, is this something, but there's not a paper that is being taken up. So doesn't the paper have to get referred to committee to actually have the discussion on the paper, but there's not a paper that's in the committee?
Technically, that would be accurate.
Yeah, so I don't think you can have the meeting. I mean, there's not a subject that's properly, as on that committee agenda.
So I'll defer to Councilor O'Malley, but I think there is a time-sensitive grant application. That was why I made the motion.
If I could weigh in on how things get started in committee, is something has to be referred from the council. So the council, there'd have to be a paper number on the council docket, then the council decides where to send it to. And they could send it to, whatever committee would discuss it. This is kind of backwards. You're starting with a paper in committee, which they can't generate their own paper. The paper has to get referred. Something has to get referred from the council.
Thank you.
Sorry.
One second. Councilor Linehan, are you all set?
I totally understand. I'll defer to the chair of the committee in that case, but I completely take the point.
Okay. Councilor O'Malley, I'm coming back to you because I have a couple of other hands up first. Councilor Spatafor.
Just so I'm clear, if it's a grant, what is the grant? And is it citywide grant or is it just for your ward, Council O'Malley? Why wouldn't we be sending to finance?
Councilor
Public
O'Malley.
property.
Well, he said grant, so I want who's filling out the grant and what's the grant for?
Councilor O'Malley.
Through the chair, Maria Louise from the mayor's office brought this to our attention as the Public Properties Committee. We aren't taking any affirmative action tonight. We wouldn't be taking any votes. So there's no paper to discuss because we're just meeting as a committee. The Public Properties Committee can meet without a paper. We can't act unless there's a paper. So we're not looking to take action. In order for me to talk to Amanda and Steve in a group, we have to have a meeting, even if we're not taking action. You know, like if I called Amanda and Steve on like a conference call, that would technically be a meeting of the Public Properties Committee. We just want to talk about this grant in order to inform the administration.
I have no sound.
We can hear you, Council DiMaria.
Okay, hold on one second, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Spatafor, are you good?
Well, I'm still confused though. If there's a
I have
grant,
no sound.
what are you going to be talking about in a meeting at 9 o'clock at night that the public properties and the public's not informed what you're going to be talking about? I'm confused. What is the grant?
If you like, I can read it. 1 second.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So we posted it. It was just our meeting rules were confusing. One says you can't have one before 9, and the other one says 6:45. There was a confusion on my part. So it says the committee will meet to discuss a MassDOT funding program to help cities and towns create shared streets and spaces to support public health, safe mobility, and renewed commerce. Shared streets and spaces, a funding program to provide technical and funding assistance to help Massachusetts city and towns conceive, design, and execute shared streets, spaces, and engage their residents and businesses in that process. This program funds quick build, quick launch improvements to sidewalks, curbs, streets, and parking spaces and parking lots. So
sounds great, Council. I would say I support that, but the same token is it's citywide, I'm assuming, correct? Like it'd be Maplewood Square. It would be Malden Square, Maplewood Square, Clifton Square, all the squares, right, would have equal ability to go for that grant.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
squares and bus lanes too. It doesn't have to just be squares. It's pretty broad.
Yeah, I would just say this. My concern is it's 9 o'clock at night. From the public's perspective, how many people are going to be watching the council meeting right now? And if we want to really get some input, I support the idea. Certainly businesses are in trouble. But I think from the ward council's perspective, they should also understand that it's for the entire community, and we can certainly act together to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to build this. Because I've noticed that too, even some of the local restaurants and bars that opened up, the ones that were lucky enough to have their own space have been able to do so, and the other ones unfortunately don't. Me and Council Condon talked about a couple on Highland Ave where there is no space for them. So I support it, but I just think we have to think of a plan citywide. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilor Malley and Councilor Name.
Councilor Winslow, did you have your hand up and then take it down? Because I could have swore you had a blue light on you.
I think, it's helpful to have a discussion just to figure out, this is a very broad grant, so that there's a lot of potential. So I think that the challenge for the committee is to even sort of put out about how we would go forward. So, I think that's the challenge of wanting to at least talk about, there's a lot of options. So does it focus on restaurants? Does it focus on access to the T? There's a lot we can go. And if we don't get going on it, early bird gets the worm, the money's gone. So that's the.
Great, thank you. Councilor Murphy, you have your hand up. Councilor Condon, you're next.
Yeah, no, I'm not, obviously, I love grants. I love getting money, but I also want to think of this, when we're talking about, we're talking about bumping out sidewalks and reducing, the ability of cars to move through a street. I mean, is this permanent? Is this just temporary for COVID? I mean, I think it's a huge topic. And I agree we need to start it, but to start it at 9 o'clock at night when nobody really knows anything about it. I mean, I think it would be great for the council to maybe get some information on it, and then sit down and figure out, how do we want to move this forward? Public properties is like just a little, all of our committees seem to have been compressed down to, like, in some cases, 3 people. This is a topic I think that is going to impact all of us. And just heard somebody mention, I think, bus lanes, and I mean, this is a huge topic. So I think we need to docket this and have an in-depth discussion when we all can participate and know what we're talking about. So, I'd like to kind of get some information on the grant before the conversation starts. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Condon.
What is the time frame it has to be filed?
Can anyone answer that?
I was trying to speak with Kevin Duffy in the mayor's office about it a little bit this morning, just to try to get more information. It sounds like there's sort of rolling due dates, but the priority is on I'll say quick build, but that implies construction. It's really things that can be stood up very quickly. It is targeted toward COVID response, but it's meant to give an additional bucket of money from MassDOT for towns to be able to use to help businesses, or something that's like almost ready to go if you just had a little boost in funding. So it's not meant to be starting things that would necessitate a huge change in the streetscape. Absolutely, I will agree, Councilor Murphy, that we should, do it at a time when the public can participate. That's the intent, is not to try to sneak anything through, just to try to be mindful of the timeliness of it. I do think there's a webinar that the state is doing. I think on Thursday, I can try to get more information and share it with the council, just to understand what the local permitting needs would be. If you apply for and get the money, what do you then need to do on the local level? But it is just supposed to be kind of quick and dirty, get it done quickly type of grants, not big projects that have a long lead time.
Great, thank you. Councilor Kamel.
Are we essentially having the discussion right now, though? I mean, it's not on this docket either, right?
No, it's not.
I mean,
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Spada, are you good, Councilor Kamel?
well, yeah, I don't know if this is what we're
Okay.
supposed to be doing.
Councilor Spatafor, are you good?
No, I actually have another question. I don't think it's in public properties.
I don't either.
I think it's
Actually,
DPW.
don't say that.
You have no jurisdiction over the streets and sidewalks.
It's
I don't even think it's,
It
I
would be
don't-
public, yeah, it would be public works. The
if you're
public
closing a
works
street, you need the traffic department. So I don't even think it's before the committee. Not to be a stickler, but you have the public properties as buildings, not streets.
I was just, Councilor Spatafor, if you don't mind, I was just looking in the book, and the Public Property Committee is 3 members that shall have jurisdiction over the care, use, and maintenance of all municipal buildings and all property obtained through foreclosures of tax titles. The Public Works Committee is also a 3-member committee, which has jurisdiction over all matters related to streets, sidewalks, water, sewer, parks, and playgrounds. So I actually think that this grant should go to the Public Works Committee, not the Public Properties Committee. So I think it's actually in the wrong committee to begin with. Attorney Fallon, can I ask your opinion on this? If you don't mind.
You have to follow the legislative process of putting a paper on your docket that is eyes wide open for all of the council, and so you know where to go with this paper. And it sounds like it would go to a Public Works Committee as well as Finance Committee where it involves a grant. And I'm not familiar with any deadlines or anything else with regard to it. But that's why you have to docket something and follow your procedures. As the city clerk explained, it requires a paper number and then a title. And then you discuss it on the floor, and then you decide which committee you're going to refer it to for consideration. And it's public, from what I can hear.
Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Councilor O'Malley, we're gonna, are you good? Do you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I agree. I think it should go to Public Works Committee. So
Do you
so
still
I'm-
want to make your motion to suspend the rules, or are we gonna just not have that meeting this
well,
evening?
I didn't make the motion, so
I can withdraw that
Councilor
motion.
Linehan, I apologize.
That's
Yeah.
fine. I withdraw the motion.
Okay, Councilor Kamel, did you have something to add? Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, 1 second. I would like personal privilege. Okay,
Oh, no,
so
but-
we are not going
Can I
to.
ask one more thing? Can I ask one more
Go
thing?
ahead.
I apologize. So what was just said about, and I don't even mean to like start a hornet's nest, but what was just said about the streets versus the buildings? Why do the small cell towers go to the public property, not Public Works, if it's not, it has nothing to do with buildings?
Hold on, Attorney Fallon, I can't hear you.
I'm saying that's a great question, but you have to ask your city clerk that.
I spent a year,
Send them anywhere where you want to
Oh,
go.
you guys can have it. I'm done.
I spent a year chairing that committee, dealing with all the damn things.
Well, I guess, I'm going to speak before the clerk does. I would guess that a pole is more of public property than it is a public works issue, because the public works issue specifically states a sidewalk, a street, etc.
Correct.
We have public property, it does say buildings, but where would the pole go in between? It's not specifically a street or a sidewalk. The public works has specifics, whereas, you know, I could see why a pole would be in part of public property and not public works. So that's my 2 cents. So everyone else is good. Councilor O'Malley, is your hand still up?
No, I'm so good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we are good. So on behalf of the chair, I too want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day this Sunday, especially my dad. He is one of the best. Yep. And I wanted to say congratulations to all the parents. You actually made it through the last 3 months of homeschooling your children. This is the last week of school for Malden Public Schools. I had the pleasure of stopping by the Linden today to see some of the kids picking up their belongings and their report cards. And although it was, you know, bittersweet, it was nice that they got to see some of their teachers and get out and take some pictures. And Councilor Murphy, I saw, was at the Forestdale. The Forestdale PTO did an amazing job with their 8th graders, saying goodbye and giving them their proper send-off, even though it was, you know, a non-traditional event. I think everybody over there was pretty pleased. So I just wanted to say congratulations to the class of 2020 8th graders and all, like I said, all the parents who actually made it through the last 3 months of homeschooling their children. I think they're going to be extremely excited when these kids actually get back into a classroom with their teachers, and they're going to give them and you know, never have a bad thing to say about anybody again, because it's truly been a trying time. I honestly don't know how some parents have, you know, been able to stay at home, work, and take care of their children. I had a senior in high school, and it was difficult making sure he had all his work done. I can't imagine having to do it to a 5, 6, 7, or 8-year-old child. I'm sure that it was, you know, very tiring. So congratulations to all of our parents. You made, you know, the first year of homeschooling a wonderful one. So thank you so much. And on Councilor Kamel's motion to adjourn, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Absolutely.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria. Di Maria.
I think we lost her.
She's already adjourned.
She was having, for some reason, towards the end of this meeting, everything was lagging.
Yeah, she's
Linehan,
yelling.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
We
Winslow.
lost Winslow too, by the way, city
All right,
clerk.
Sika. Sika.
Yes. Good
That-
night,
that
guys.
was
Have
my-
a nice week.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.